Hello and welcome back to the Radio 6 podcast. I'm Chambourine. I'm joined by GoluMolu yet again, and we're going to have a very brief kind of update, or I guess overview of how Invitational finished off. If you've seen our last video, we kind of went into it in quite depth in terms of some of the games. We'll kind of go over how it finished off. I'm sure we've had had a week or so to kind of digest it, Golu, and think about it, and then moving into stage one next week. So we've got plenty of time to kind of decompress, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a banger event. I don't know, it was really good. SI was great.
Yeah.
Everything about it was fantastic. Couldn't really ask much more. I mean, we'll get into it, right? We had the stage games. So the two lower brackets into the W7M.
Yeah.
G2 game, spoiler alert. And then there was the upper bracket with FaZe and VP into our grand final, which it just is the best game of all time. The top three, it is just number one. That game was fucking amazing.
Yeah, it was so good.
It was such a good game. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll get to it, right? We'll order this. I won't just skip everything.
Skip ahead. Yeah, I need to rein you in a little bit just before we get too excited. But yeah, we're gonna go over the kind of games that we just the stage games, because we've already been through like a kind of recap. So if you want like a recap, if you didn't watch the games live, or you want to kind of just cherry pick the games to kind of go back to, if you go back and watch a previous video or listen to a previous podcast, you can kind of check which games were were decent and stuff like that earlier on in the bracket. But this is just about the stage games and how the event kind of finished up. But the stage games, I said it's just about stage games, but we're also going to be talking about like the year 9 kind of impressions and stuff as well, and like the kind of first season stuff. But we'll get to that after the 6th invitational stuff's kind of wrapped up. But yeah, stage games, obviously only 6 teams make it to the stage. I kind of wish there would be a little bit more, but that's just formatting and stuff, but it is what it is. They were kind of a snooze fest for a bit. That's probably the best way to describe them. I was talking just before, I was kind of like looking at the results and stuff. There was a lot of 2-0s just this whole event, and they kind of continued. I thought they'd get a little bit closer as we got to the tail end of the competition, which technically they did, because the lower bracket final and then the actual final were really close. But like the lower bracket quarterfinals, for instance, Sonic's W7M 2-0, Dark Zero D2 2-0, then the winners of course T2 and W7 go through. They then get a rematch, and again, pretty sleeper. It's the best way to describe them. 2-0. I hate using the word to describe it, but I don't know. What's your opinion on the game, that kind of the way that those played out?
I wouldn't say they were like sleeper games. I mean, I think specifically first round, G2 Dark Zero, the first map was phenomenal. Skyscraper was a great map. See G2 pick up 2 rounds, starting on attack on Sky. You get the tactical timeout called. Dark Zero string 5 rounds together. G2 called a timeout and string 5 rounds together. The way that map went was just really, really fun to watch. And it's one of the reasons I just love Skyscraper, right? Is you just see these teams of just trying to just break through each other's front lines. And I think with both Dark Zero and G2 embody quite different styles of Siege, and seeing that head up on Sky was really, really enjoyable to watch. I think after losing that Skyscraper and coming into Bank, that's where it did look a little bit washed, right? It wasn't very, very back and forth between DZ and G2. G2 clearly very prepared to play Dark Zero on Bank, because they'd already shown it. A couple of times previously. Yeah. We saw them play it against VP. Did they play it against Space Station as well? So they'd played it twice already in the playoffs run leading up to this point. And G2 just took complete advantage of that and just looked really, really good on map 2 and took home the series from there. I think Dark Zero have been... They were my favorite team to watch going into this game. I think Dark Zero across the board have just been really, really entertaining. I really like the way they play Siege. It was all built around just really making use, especially on attack, finding ways to make use of these operators that dislodge, right? The replacement for nades, as we sort of were discussing last time, and it was your things like your Capitals, your Grims, finding ways to use these as that replacement effect and creating space for yourself to walk on forwards. Bolo picked up as the tournament went on, which was great to see. And what happens with Bolo going forwards, whether he stays with the roster, I hope so. Because he had some really good performances. His last game against VP, even though they lost it on that Sky in overtime, was nuts. And what dropped like 20 kills?
Yeah, he was proper. Yeah, he was proper hitting a heater on that map. I do remember that. Going back to it.
So I think Dark Zero from the whole event really fun to watch. NGR, had they gotten a little bit further, I think is in contention for MVP of the event. Just consistently so good. I remember being in a call, and I think it was Pooble just being like, "Oh, by the way, NGR's on 11 kills." I was just sort of like,
yeah.
He's just sort of like gotten 2 kills consistently every single round for like 6 rounds at this point.
Yeah,
and he's just playing really well. Like, I mean, like, but you're not surprised by it, right? Because you're like, I guess it's like makes sense for NGR, but it's also like he doesn't. He somehow manages to skate under the radar when you come into these conversations. It feels like just always just very consistently good.
Yeah.
And I think Dark Zero have a really nice sort of. They finally found a roster which doesn't just implode the moment they have to play with each other. That's a bit harsh, right? Like they've just had problems filling that fifth for a really long time, and I didn't think Gaveni was the problem. I think Gaveni's a really good player, and I'd be expecting him to be picked up by another NAL team. If he's not back in the NAL, I'd be shocked. And obviously, I feel for Rice. Obviously, getting the call up, playing a stage, going to a major, and then having to play, go back down to tier 2, right? It is a hard feeling, but again, like Rice immediately bounced back into Element 2 and was just playing again. It's like they've got the mindset to just keep going with it. I'm sure they'll be able to make it back up to the top again. But I think this new roster just clicks a lot better, and I hope it sticks together.
Yeah, need to kind of give it a bit more time. It's just kind of newly formed. Obviously, just coming in the events, kind of surprisingly formed. Obviously, I don't think many people would have called Bolo coming back to competitive. But it's really nice roster. I'm excited to see what the kind of future is for it. On the other side of it, G2, they obviously just kind of go. They do what G2 do best. They perform at least on the stage, at least for this one, for that game anyway. They look pretty comfortable, like you say, on Bank. They go through and then obviously have to face against W7M, which the other kind of game I want to talk about as well is the Sonic's W7M game. And Sonic's have already, so at this point of recording, it's the 6th of March, by the way. So for anyone kind of listen at a later time, so we have kind of like Frankenstein rosters right now. We have like some roster changes and some things that we've kind of have come through, but some teams are leaving it really, really late. We wanted to talk about it, but we've just decided we'll put that off to next week once we actually get into the actual stage, which starts on the 11th, so 5 days, and they still don't know the official kind of rosters for a couple of people. But we do know is that Sonics have changed things. They have like a kind of they've had a different response to that loss than Dark Zero have. Obviously, even though Sonics did make a change coming into this event, they've decided no, they actually need to do a bit more because they really, really, they got into the stage game. They make top 8, but they just think, we need to change things here. They're coming up against the kind of existing champions, W7M. W7M looked completely comfortable in both maps, and they go through to the lower bracket semi-final against G2 after that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sonic just got outclassed a little bit, right? And I think we sort of saw this ramping up of W7M through the playoffs. Obviously, they lose to Wolves, get knocked down, and then just start running through teams. Obviously, game against Space Station was pretty good, to be fair, for Space Station. Yeah. I think we gave them some credit last week, but I'll give it again. I think Space Station did play well. But obviously, just against W7M, it's always going to be a rough one. Sonics just again they didn't able to find their footing in the series. I think W7M just hit the ground running and just didn't stop for anything. And you'll see this as a trend, right? When W7M start, they don't stop. They just keep going, and they keep going, and that runs into our next series with the W7M G2, and it was just over from minute 1. I mean, the funny thing is, right, is if we were looking at like the Dark Zero G2 game, and you see the crowd is fully behind G2, right? It's like, oh, Alamau, oh, you've come home, like, oh, welcome home. And then it comes up against a Brazilian team, and it's like, fuck you, Alamau, you're a traitor, you betrayed us, you left for EU, we want to see you lose. And then W7M obviously being like crowd favorites doesn't surprise anyone.
Yep.
Right? It's like the golden child of Brazil right now. And I don't know what it is, But there's something about having to play Brazilian teams that just doesn't quite gel with G2 at the moment.
No, it doesn't.
And like I saw like when they beat Liquid, and people were like, "Oh, they've finally beaten a Brazilian team. It's so good now. G2 have shown they can beat Brazilian teams." Oh, I'm sorry. It's Team Liquid, guys. Like let's not get excited for this. By the way, this is a team that has consistently just been kind of meh. Liquid have had like flares of brilliance, but never really been that great.
Yeah.
They're not on the same level as W7M. They're not on the same level as FaZe Clan. Arguably not on the same level as Nip. I think I'd rather have Nip than Liquid. Like if I have to pick one of them to play as an opponent, I'm choosing Liquid, right? So I just think it's not quite the same, and it showed it. And I don't know what the solution for that is, because obviously Alamau has immense value to a team as an IGL. You can't have so many people across the scene, so many people that have worked with you, just like hyping you up all the time for it to be not for anything, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very clear to see in the way that G2 plays the game, and how you can go back and look at it, right? When Alamau joins, when he's then given that full sort of control over the squad in terms of being that IGL for them, and then just the shift in the team. It all coincides with that time frame. Just for some reason, it's just not quite there, and you can see it in their faces when they're playing the game. There's not that same passion. There's not that same sort of energy and vibe that I think a team like G2 really needs, right? People look like, oh, what is it that is so often accredited with why they won SI last year? Oh, it's because they're a vibe team. They play off of that momentum. They build up the hype, and then they ride it. And they just couldn't get anything going here against W7M, and it was a blowout. Yep. It just was a blowout.
Yeah, that the Nighthaven game was a tough watch. Not gonna lie, the Nighthaven first map. So just to be clear on the result for that, it was 2-0 to W7M for that lower bracket semi-final. By the way, Nighthaven was first map, Skyscraper the second one. 7-1 W7M won that first one, and G2 looked as if they were just not even at the races. It was a really bizarre game to watch, actually, and unfortunately that meant that they kind of fell, obviously. But then again, you mentioned vibes. W7M, they just caught that vibe perfectly in the lower bracket.
There's been discussion about what the cause of this Labs game was. The first thing is that Labs was a map W7M hadn't shown. And I think that's important to take into account. This isn't W7M was saving Labs just for G2. They targeted G2. No, Philippok said in an interview after the game, we've been prepping Labs. We've been ready to bring it out for a little while now. It's just never really come through in the veto, right? They've gone from it being their permaban to sometimes they'd leave it open for a bit, but then they're like, oh, we could bring out Labs, but like also, Consulate's been open or Clubhouse has been left open. It's like, well, okay, yeah, you take one of those up and you run it back, and it just so happens that this is the first time where it made sense to go for that Labs pick, and you get to really show it off in the bans. And when you get to do that, you go for it, right? And they came in G2 not having a good read into what W7M were going to do because they haven't seen the map before, and rather than playing with this, I'm going to say the split theory style that has been so sort of heavily discussed around this event a lot for some reason, and around G2 and W7M specifically, they didn't do that. They weren't trying to split up and search for clues. They weren't. They were very much focused on, let's grab this Monty, let's push down corridors and just clear a little bit by little bit to try and get a vibe for W7M. And unfortunately, W7M were just like, cool, like if you want to stand behind a Monty shield, that's absolutely fine. We'll just swing you and we'll just kill you. And you're gonna get stuck in a doorway somewhere and not be able to move past connector and just lose rounds for free. It just looked very uncharacteristic for G2. And then, they made that adaptation, right? After round 3, they were like, okay, you know what, this Monty isn't working. Let's bin it off. And it still didn't work. I think W7M just came in a really, really solid plan for Nighthaven. I think it just completely caught G2 off, and that just crippled the mental, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously going to the second map, it's just difficult to kind of deal with that, and then they just kind of bow out the competition. But W7M, they continued on with the momentum, with the crowd behind them, and had to face off against Virtus Pro, who just dropped down from their fight against FaZe Clan in the upper bracket final, which had a couple decent moments in it. But to me, I think FaZe always felt comfortable in that one again. Crowd favourites. Virtus Pro couldn't really quite get much going on it. I don't think there's really much to discuss other than just FaZe outclassed them, really. I don't think there's any particular reason for it. I think they just played well and they had the crowd behind them, and Virtus Pro just couldn't really do much with it.
I think FaZe came out really comfortably in the ban phase here.
Yeah.
And I think this has been really interesting looking at teams that FaZe have oftentimes come up against. It's always worked out quite favorably in this sense. Consulate and Cafe. I mean, Cafe is a map that VP have really liked playing throughout this event and throughout the team's sort of history, right? And it makes sense when you look at the way they want to play the game. They want to play very slow. They want to try and clog down movement of their opponent, force you down very specific channels, and then just sort of capitalize off the fact of this overwhelming sort of utility that they can swing off of, that they can really hunker down behind. That's Cafe in a nutshell.
Yeah.
FaZe are really happy playing into a very similar pool, right? Consulate. Very good Consulate team. They love Consulate. They've shown time and time again that they can be very good on Consulate. Cafe, again, a map that FaZe are really well known for playing inside of Brazil. And so you just come out of this situation where it's like, okay, they just looked better on the day. FaZe just are a world-class team.
Yeah.
And they just showed it, right? They come in, have a strong defensive half on Consulate, move into that attacking phase, and just have a very clear idea of how they want to attack the map. And I think you're looking at this event, right? We had a big sway in terms of defender win rate, I guess.
Yeah.
Strength. And we started to see the teams that could find ways to break it down. And it was a lot of the time off of just having a clear goal in mind. And FaZe just moved brilliantly around on Consulate. But they had very clear ideas like, cool, attacking top floor. We're going to get a full wide spread. We're going to make sure we have that pressure on Spiral. So when we actually go for either the yellow with the CEO window, or when we're starting to push in through admin, either way, it's so impossible for the defense to mass build up players to shut us down, because if you overcommit, you just get shot in the side. And I think everything was just really nicely played by FaZe. The Cafe looked really, really oppressive to try and play against as well. Just the amount of rounds in that round, right? There was a couple big moments, some step-ups, Joystick having some really good highlights, Dan some individual moments, but ultimately just wasn't enough. And I think FaZe, again, like, they're just a world-class team. People, like, we all know this. Mm-hmm. They're just world-class. And that was a game that really showed it. And they locked their spot in that final and just like, cool, yeah. Like, no matter what, like, this final is going to be a banger, right? I think it was pretty set at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had them in my pick'ems to go through that top bracket to get to the final. Once W7M had kind of fell out of it, so like, because realistically, who's going to call W7 losing to Wolves at the time? It was just it was like anomaly. I feel like it's just a trial by fire for like how these things work now. You have to lose to Wolves is the way to win an event now. But yeah, like that's like I said just before you kind of went into a bit more depth there. I think FaZe, they look comfortable. They show their class. They go through into the grand final. Virtus Pro drop into the lower bracket final where they face a very hungry W7M, which it was a banger game. I think it was more of a banger than I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be a bit more either like a bit more one-sided. You know how you kind of like have a conversation between like W7M and G2, like those games will always be like a 2-0. They'll for like, because the way that both teams play, usually you only get 2-0 or you get like a 3-0, you just get like a kind of washout really, because of the way that they play. I was kind of expecting something like this from it. I wasn't expecting it to be a bit as close as it was. But I'm happy it was. It was exciting because it felt like we were due one. We were due at least like a 2-1. We were due a little bit of like overtime action. Of course, it's Dez and Ace that deliver us it. It's like written in the stars at this point. But it was a great game, and you know, I was sad to kind of see the last EU team go. But it's W7M at the end of the day. We're all kind of in our hearts, kind of rooting for them to kind of maybe get complete the trifecta.
Yeah, I mean, this game was really good. It was kind of funny because Clubhouse saw that. I was like, cool. Like, you know what? There was some rounds in there. VP started off pretty decently, but you see KZ have his his first like double, triple kill round, and you're like, okay, I'm starting to see the cog starting to turn. and the rest of the map looked very confident for them, especially like moving into that attacking half and then just sort of running through. Again, it's W7 Clubhouse, right? They are the world's best Clubhouse team for a reason. I mean, arguably, Atlanta Geek is the greatest team to ever play Clubhouse, arguably. But no, we're not taking that seriously. It's W7M. You move into Chalet and everything sort of flips back again. VP looked really good. VP have a lot of command. And again, it was down to this attack. It's another strong attacking half. Sort of inversing history of map 1. And I think this is when you really start to see, like, you know, when teams are good at attacking, you still win lots of rounds. You still sort of blow things wide open for yourself. And I was expecting it to be a 2-0 after the Clubhouse. I was coming into Chalet. I was like, I think this is maybe a little bit done. But you move on. They force it into map 3, and that border was weird for me because the first half I was sort of like half paying attention for the first half of the map, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was watching it. I was like, cool, yeah, W7M, sure, like border again, like this should be pretty cozy for them.
Yeah.
And then I sort of like zone back in. I'm like, oh, it's like VP are winning. Okay. Sure. Yeah, okay. And then it just went all the way. And there were so many rounds where it should have maybe been over. JV92 having like his once per tournament quoted god round to like save the tournament life. Yep. It was like a 1v3 on top floor to like force the overtime, and he just does it.
Yep.
Like just turns around and it's like, I think it was a 2v4 and just turns around, gets a triple kill, and you're like,
sure,
cool, okay, yeah, I guess one more round, right? Like, I guess we keep going. That guy's just insane. But this is the problem when you're looking at a team like W7M. Like, there's no weakness.
Exactly.
Like, it's been really amusing, right? Because, like, you know, Nade and Philippox having a kind of quieter tournament, and it's like, it's not because they're playing badly, it's because they don't get to see opponents very often. Like, KZ and Herds both breaking the invitational kill record.
Yeah, I was going to lead into that.
Yeah,
same I have team. The figures.
Well, it's like 323. No,
even more than that. Even more than that. It's 300 and that's the one. 336 kills each. By the way, Herds and KZ they equal it in the final, which is crazy. It was Benjo that held it. The previous one was 323. That was Benjo on SI 2023 Grand Final. The final, of course. Insane stuff from them. But yeah, that game, the border game, definitely an all-timer. 8-7 being the final kind of score. You just knew once they got to overtime, you just kind of felt, right, okay, this is going to be W7M's one. Link's actually put a nice video out just yesterday about how it was just literally one call for a rotate that cost VP the round and the game. Essentially, top floor W7M are looking all nice and comfortable, or they're kind of stalling out a little bit. They're kind of not quite there, and then someone else makes the call on VP to rotate through, and then someone gets caught out on 90, and then W7M do what W7 best. As soon as they see a gap, they just flood in and start murdering everybody, and they won it. They won border out 8-7, and it was a great game though. And VP, with their 1 round difference between going to a grand final, it's a shame it happens, because it's like, what do you do with that? You know, the roster's been together that long that, like, what do you change there? Because, like, in an alternate universe, you're in the final, we've done it, but it's difficult.
Yeah, I don't know with the VP. I think they're a team that is just so VP. It's the only way I can describe it, right? They are very set apart. And coming into this whole event, I wasn't really. I think I'd put them like second in the group.
Yeah, I think I as well.
In our sort of initial reactions to it, and I mean that was basically just because I think their floor is better than the floors of the other teams they were in groups with.
Yeah.
They obviously come out on top of their group. Come on top of their group? Yeah.
Yeah, they came top. Yeah.
Yeah, they came top of their group. And
they look good doing it as well.
They look fine doing it. I think the meta really helped them. I think they're a team that's always wanted to play slow. They've always wanted to play to this. We chill, we build things up, we wait to the end of the round. You have to move into us, and this just suits them so perfectly. Especially at the start of the event when teams didn't know what attacking was without frag grenades anymore, and players just looked, a little bit. I wouldn't say lost. They just looked like they were still trying to read the map, and they're just able to really push and punish teams for not being good enough. And I've always felt like VP were a little bit of a gatekeeper team. Which is obviously, when you then look at them as like, oh, they're consistently winning E well. Not exactly brilliant for the region, maybe. But I think that's like the fair way to put them. And I'd be interested to see what that looks like coming into this season of EUL, now that obviously the meta hasn't changed a whole lot with the new season. That's coming through at some point before the new launch. I can't remember what date the new season comes in.
11th.
Like 9th? Yeah. 11th. So literally like the
Same
day before the season begins.
Yeah.
Sure. So, right, that's just like... Fair enough. But I think that'll be interesting to see, mainly with the keeper changes. But the rest of the stuff's all the same. We'll get into the changes later. But I think VP should stick with their roster. I think they have. I think they have to.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah.
And they just keep running it back.
Yeah, I think they do. I think you kind of nailed it perfectly there, right? With like with the meta. I think they're a team that like. They're on any other day, like they win this event, and just like I feel like if they just get a sweet spot of a meta, then they're like, yeah, that's it, good. Like they are a great roster, and they can win events. It's just that tiny bit final hurdle we've missed a few times. They've just been able to kind of step over the line. But anyway, moving on to arguably, in fact, I don't even think it's arguably, to be honest, the greatest game I've ever watched. At least in my personal history that I've ever watched of Siege, which was the grand final. W7M, obviously, they squeezed through past Virtus Pro, 1 round of a difference, but then they step into the final against a strong FaZe. It's an all-Brazilian final. People are saying, oh my god, Golu, it's going to be boring. We're not going to enjoy this because it's just all Brazilian teams. Well, we're sick of this. People are talking about it on Twitter. They're saying... No, we're not going to watch. We're like, it's going to, And the crowd lived up to it. It was insane. They had clear visions on who they wanted to support. It wasn't just everybody just cheer for whoever. It was like an actual divide in the stadium. It was outstanding. The teams themselves, they put on a show. I think we obviously have to start with I guess the elephant in the room. What happened? What happened to W7M in the first map? What happened?
So, I loved this, and I think it was an amazing, like in hindsight, such a perfect start to the grand final. I think if you want to write a script for what a game looks like, having your dynasty forging team just be smacked. So, FaZe Clan coming from the upper bracket, we don't run with the map advantage anymore.
Yeah.
We haven't for a couple of years now, right? So, how do you make up for that? How do you still give the team coming through from the top an advantage? It's in the veto. So, the way it works is rather than ban, each team bans a map, FaZe got to start by just grabbing one for free. They could pick any map they want, and they just get it. And they chose Oregon.
Which was strange at the time.
Which is spicy. It's very interesting. So you have full pick of the board, and you pick up Oregon. Now, Oregon, obviously, if you know Siege, you'll know Oregon. Everyone in rank knows it. Everyone in comp scene knows it, from the bottom to the top. And it has this really interesting dichotomy, where on one hand, you're like, oh, anyone can win on Oregon. And on the flip side, you're like, well, the better team just wins on Oregon. Somehow both are true at the same time. Insert the Oppenheimer. It's a paradox. FaZe just come through, have a very solid game plan, and picked apart W7M. I have not seen a character assassination so hard as that game. W7M come in on defense because they get to pick sides and lose 6-0. It was a flawless attacking half on Oregon by FaZe Clan, and I cannot find a fault in FaZe. Yeah. Every single member of that team was zoned in on this idea of we're just going to rip apart bit of the map by bit of the map, force W7M back. We're not going to give any space to let Herds or KZ get that opening start for themselves, get that ball rolling, start accumulating those kills. It was a masterclass. Mm-hmm. And I think this is exactly sort of the perfect demonstration of what a map veto advantage is supposed to look like. You're supposed to come into this with this ace up your sleeve, because remember as well, FaZe Clan haven't played a game since the Friday, right? So they play their game at the end of Friday night. They then have all of Saturday off, and then they don't play until Sunday evening. So they have effectively like 24 free hours, right? 24? Like, more than that.
Yeah, more than
like,
that. So,
like,
yeah, call it a day, basically.
Like 40 hours or something like this?
Yeah, at least a full day of prep, at least.
Right, so they come in and, I mean, you know, obviously you have to be a little bit wary of who you're going to be playing. You don't know if it's going to be W7M, G2, or VP at the start of the day, because both of those games happen on the Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, to come in on that strong a map is nuts. And I think coming into that Oregon, I don't even think this is a specifically W7M thing. I think this is just like, this is the map we're going to open with. We're going to pick this Oregon, and we have this game plan. And it's like how you see in chess, right? People will like have these steps, right? And they're like, cool, I'm going to come into this game at like at the very top level, right? Like obviously when you're like a goon just playing a random game of chess in like school, you're not going to, I mean, unless you're like some sort of prodigy, but you're just like, cool. You come in and you have like your first like 15 moves with every counter move prepped. That's what it felt like. Every opening to these rounds, the setups, they were fluid on operator picks, just moving things around when they needed to, making sure they have everything lined up. And I think this is what attacking can look like these days, right? The Grim was taken away. There was no Grim being played. And Ying was gone as well. So you're looking at these two operators who are like, that's oftentimes what's going to sort of forge a lot of space. And they're able to work around that so well, instead using things like flashbangs a lot more actively, using the Capitao. And I mean, it was all just so good.
Yeah, standard. I think it was the first time of the W7M era where I kind of wavered a little bit, and I thought, maybe they don't do it. Maybe they don't. Like that's the first time I was looking at it. I was also like, we did like a live watch party in Manchester as well, and I had like fully with my chest went in on W7M, like fully being going in like, yeah, it's not gonna happen, and everyone else is like, oh no, FaZe are gonna do this, FaZe are gonna like finally, you know, they've got the whole like always the bridesmaid never the bride type vibe going on. You know, they have like obviously picked up a major in the past, but they're always like kind of floating around. They're not quite, people don't put the respect on them. People are, you know, putting respect on W7M because obviously their trophy cabinet's stacked right now. But the same thing can't be said of kind of FaZe, despite them being a world class roster. So, and it was the first time I was like, if I chose wrongly here, because like when I tell you, like if you watch back this final, like they just weren't there. Like it was incredible from FaZe, incredible.
Really good from FaZe.
Going into like the next kind of 3 maps, I guess. You've got your Bank, Skyscraper, Border, and Nighthaven as the decider as well. It was indeed a 5 map banger. Spoiler alert.
I mean, it had to be if it's going to be the greatest, right?
Yeah, it had to be, exactly. You know, because it is the best game of Siege. Like again, I got into esports quite late, so like I don't have like a lot of the early ones as references and stuff like that. But like definitely the best one I've personally watched, and a lot of people have kind of said that they think it's the best one in history and stuff. Of course, like you have like that kind of other storyline kind of baked into it as well. You have like the Nade versus Handy storyline, of course, twin brothers on opposing teams in a grand final in Brazil, which is just like, who wrote that script? Like, where did you, like, the probability of that ever happening is just like, what's going on here? Insane. So like that was an insane storyline. But yeah, W7M moving to Bank. They obviously are on their pick. They started off a little bit shaky, but it was pretty decent. Again, the 3 maps and like to get us to the decider were, I think, all right. Is there any ones that like you want to particularly highlight that you fancy? Because I feel like they were pretty run of the mill.
I think just I'll do like a quick little thought on each, I guess, as well. Do this. Bank, it came in FaZe, looking solid. right? Again, they carried that 7-1 over, and it took a couple rounds for W7M to wake up to it. It's a bit like what we mentioned with like G2 just not looking quite there in their W7M series. This is sort of how it was in map 1. But the big difference for me was that coming out of Oregon, you see W7M, you see players like Herds, where, you know, they're still having a bit of a laugh about it. Like, they get 7-1, and they're like, yeah, that was a little bit silly, guys. That was on us. That was on us. And they come back in, and they're ready to go. And I think being able to have that sort of... I mean, everyone deals with things differently, right? And I think it's one of these really difficult things to try and discuss is mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Because some players will lose and laugh about it.
Mm-hmm.
Some players will lose and be like really upset about it. But neither of that inherently means anything. Mm-hmm. When the player who's laughing can be laughing because they're either like, okay, cool, like this is my coping mechanism, we lock back in. Or they could be like, hi, it's so over, like whatever, and just check out. And then inverse, you can have like the guys like really upset and there's like, I hate that I lost 7-1. Fuck it, I'm locking in. Or conversely, like, just like wants to go home. But I think you're looking at a team like W7M, they come in, they bounce back. And when they get that ball rolling, when you start to see Herds get a couple kills, when you start to get Bank get a couple kills, KZ get a couple kills. I think the big difference here was that there wasn't that same concise, like, play on Oregon that FaZe were able to bring. And that's because of how much more open Bank is, and it's why it was the pick coming in for W7M, right? Because you need a map that's going to give you that sort of ability to find windows of opportunity, and you didn't get given that on Oregon. FaZe never gave you a single gap to find, and that was what was so spectacular about the Oregon attacks specifically, was that there was never a foot out of place. Everyone was on cue. Bank, you have to, as attack especially, look for opportunities, but as that defense, you have to spread out quite thinly, which is going to just, for players like KZ and Herds, provide opportunities to start looking for those 1v1 gunfights and start engaging in gunfights that are not on sort of skewed terms for the defense. And that becomes more and more likely as you go through it. Skyscraper, this was a crazy map. Skyscraper was crazy. W7M, come in. On the defense, because it's FaZe's map pick, they get side selection. They go defense. FaZe win 1 round. It should have been a couple more. Arguably should have been a couple more. But W7M just pull off that W7M magic. They hold things together. They're able to play out the 2v2s. They keep it locked down. 5-1 half. Ooh, that's a pretty monumental thing to try and overcome. Especially when you're looking at, like, you're looking at the way W7M have been playing, right? They're starting to pick up on these attacks. It's the attack that's really flourishing for W7M on Bank. That was why they were able to sort of pick apart parts of FaZe. And as we're getting ready, prep phase of round 7, we get the call-in. Who's the hero in the middle of the night when we need him most? It's Jesse Check. Comes in, drops a revelation on us. FaZe average 1 round dropped, or less than 1 round dropped per map they play on defense of Skyscraper. What? This team averages like 5.5 defensive rounds. That is insane. And he just hits us with, they've only lost 1 bomb site on Skyscraper, all of SI. How has this escaped the mind of the people? And so we have this revelation. Okay, maybe it's not over. You know what? Maybe just win 6 rounds is actually good enough in a grand final to win out map 3. But you know what? I'm not going to get ahead of myself. And what do you know? As if speaking it into existence, it's 6 defensive rounds in a row to seal out before overtime. And I'm just sat there, astonished. Because, like, one of my biggest criticisms with stats, right, is that, like, I'm a big, like, eye test believer, right? Yeah. And part of that is because I'm very lazy. Where it's like, do I really want to, like, sit and look at, like, stats for everything? Or do I just want to, like, watch the round and then, like, formulate my opinion based on that? And I think stats are an overblown thing, right? I think there's a lot that goes wrong with it, where people use stats as, like, these sort of band-aids to, like, create explanations that don't necessarily fit. But we just saw a perfect example in this map of, like, this is a stat, this is how this influences FaZe's game plan, and this is what this means for the next half of the game. and it just falls out of Jesse's mouth, and he just perfectly lines up what's about to happen for us. And it might be the single most like inspired piece of analysis work I have ever seen in my entire life. It was perfect. Like after the map, I'm sat there and I'm just like, how? Okay. Like, that was the listening, like the call in from Jesse. He may get bullied by Lynx every single time he does it.
Yeah.
But it has been such a boon to the broadcast when it works well. And like, I mean, it just lined up amazingly to give brilliant context.
I'm so glad you highlighted that, because I actually completely forgot about that in Skyscraper, that it went the full six.
It was like
I
it was
completely
absurd.
Forgot that was insane. Yeah, Skyscraper. I mean, Skyscraper has
like
it's a funky map, but
this map was insane. By the way, like it just showed. Like, I've been talking about, like, look, teams come in attacks, guys. Like, look, phase 1-6 on Oregon. Like, the Skyscraper is different gravy.
Yeah.
Like, this map is just, if you know what you're doing on defense, you can just lock people out, and it's so condensed, it's so heavily closed around the idea that, like, you don't have a lot of these external breaches to play for. And if you play for external breaches too heavily, you just lose all presence on other parts of the map. You have to eventually just start forcing these choke points. And FaZe they just have this affinity for it. And it, like, FaZe Skyscraper is phenomenal. Yeah, FaZe Skyscraper is just phenomenal.
It was indeed phenomenal. But that led us into Border, the fourth map. Which W7M, they bounced back after a very surprising ending. No one would have said that FaZe Connect 6 rounds in a row, except from Jesse at the time, completely elevating himself above everyone over everyone else. But yeah, we move into Border, and W7M, they get reactivated again. It's like they just come. It's like they're just like reanimating a corpse. It happens so many times in this game. Like, it's like the most bizarre thing ever. FaZe would just roll over them for a couple of rounds, like absolutely roll over them, and if W7M would just be like, yeah, and we're back. Hey guys, hello. Yeah, we're still here. We're still in this game.
Yeah, I think this was a really interesting pick to pull out in the veto for W7M. FaZe, you look at like the other maps they really enjoy, and it's like. Oh, we really like Skyscraper. We really like Consulate. We're a big cafe team. And you're like, that's interesting. So you like the slow-paced maps. And then you look at their border and like, oh, you're also just like one of the best border teams in the entire world. Okay. Like, their map spread makes very little sense in terms of what they are good at, because it's just kind of like a little bit of everything. I mean, that's how you become one of the best teams in the world, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
If you can only play one style of map, you're not going to be the best team in the world. So to pick into it, I mean, obviously W7M, another very good border team, was really cool to see. And I really like when a series doesn't end on border.
Yeah, thank God.
I'm not a massive border fan. It's grown on me.
No.
I think Border and Cafe have grown on me over this event. I would still rather see something else replace Border as our Fragger's Paradise.
Yes. Same.
I would rather see, like, maybe the Coastline. I could be teased on an Emerald Plains if we wanted to make something really spicy. That might be some sort of, like, blasphemy there, having even just, like, ushered those words, but we move.
It's fine.
But I think I would like to see Border change and then Cafe change as well. Give us Villa.
Yeah.
But it was a great map. And again, it just leaned into this aggression that W7M are able to bring so consistently. Nade stepped up. That 1v3 clutch is insane on their attacking half. I think it's like round 5. And it's a 1v3 just to push them a little bit further ahead. It's to get that 3-2. It's just to keep things moving. And what an influential round that felt like at the time, because it split that difference. This was no longer like FaZe catching up. It was now like, cool, W7M just continuing to sort of push the boat out a little bit further, get that lead built up while on the attack. And it was just a really well played out clutch as well, just like on an individual level, right? Like Nate is someone who's been a little bit quiet this tournament. After coming out of Atlanta and Copenhagen, where this Nade Philippox backline was sort of revered as like the clutch kings, right? Like if there's ever two players you want in a 2vx, it's these two players. Was the narrative coming out of those, right? And so far, a little bit quieter. You look at the stats; it's not quite as spread. Atlanta, I don't think anyone had a negative rating on W7M. That hasn't been the case this event. They've been shown to be a little bit more mortal. And this is the final where they both of them really like stamped their name back on and are like, no, like guys, we haven't been playing terribly. We just haven't been given the window to shine yet.
Yeah.
And Nade coming through on border in that big clutch. The rest of the map just again they look so comfortable on border, and moving in. This is where the gunfights with FaZe start to break down. Border was another good map for W7M.
Border was indeed a good map for W7M, but arguably wasn't a good map for W7M at the start anyway. Was Nighthaven Labs, which from an entertainment perspective is fully the best map of Rainbow Six Siege that's ever been played. Let's be honest, it just is, right? It's the best one to watch live, so easily. Good. I think like if you want to look at like Siege, of course, the way that it was balanced, it's Nighthaven Labs, and it's quite funny that we have like a defender side meta coming into the groups, and then the teams that kind of succeed are the teams that can connect their attacks and do really well with their attacks, and then we come all the way down to a grand final map, and it's decided on defenses. Like it's just I found that really quite funny. That yeah. So let's get into it. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of it. Nighthaven 6-1 FaZe are up 6-1, and I cannot stress this enough. This felt like Oregon again. This felt like W7M just weren't there. It just felt like FaZe were like, yeah, cool, that's fine. We'll just plod on these defenses, and we're just gonna build up our lead, and we're gonna close it out. And it was again bizarre. And again, it was like the second. It was like it happened in the first map, but I was a wee bit like, have I maybe put the wrong horse here? It happened again on Nighthaven, especially when it hit like championship point for FaZe. They're within one round of it. They've got 5 rounds to do it. And Grace kind of pointed something out to me. Like we were talking like in the actual like in the middle of the game. Grace said to me, she was like, "I don't think they're gonna win it. Their facial expressions have just given the game away. FaZe, the way they looked, it was almost like we cannot believe we've got here. We can't believe that we're gonna do it." And it was like that's like you haven't done it yet. And it was just like, and W7M, they just marched through. You I guess go into depth. Tell me, give me a breakdown. Go for it.
I mean, I obviously love this map. I was home by this point, so we managed to get one of the seminar rooms on campus, that we thought we'd have for the whole final. We turned out we would not have it for the whole final. So we sat there. And there was like 6 of us left at this point. And we're like, okay, we have to hedge a bet here. Mm-hmm. Does it end on border? So we're like, okay, I don't think it ends on border. We like, FaZe 2-1 up, sure. But W7M win border, right? And we're like, yeah, W7M win border. It's like, cool, okay. Set all the chairs back. Have to rebuild this seminar room on Sunday nights. Was good to go the next morning. I'm like, cool, okay. We'll walk home like during border, because if it goes map 5, I am not missing map 5 for anything. It's like if it ends on border, I just have to rewatch it. Sucks to suck, right? So we're walking back with like one phone, just like kind of quietly playing it so we can keep up with border as it's going on. And of course it goes to this map. So this was just so good. Defensively, Nighthaven very strong. Yeah. Right. Like I think this has been shown time and time again. And I'm loving the expansion on how we play defense on labs from event to event. Atlanta, I loved watching this game. FaZe specifically on Atlanta. In Atlanta, the FaZe Dark Zero game, I still think is one of the sort of like best demonstrations of labs we've seen in Comp Siege. I think it was the Sonics DZ game. It's also a really, really good demonstration. But I think the FaZe DZ one is the best. And I think that's still true. I think if you want to learn the map, that's the game you watch, not this one. But just everything about this game was so good. The FaZe hold strong, right? And they get that 5-1 lead. And W7M just not really able to find windows again. It felt a little bit like the first set of Oregon, obviously with flipped sides. Because W7M peeling away for these picks, trying to get openings around the map, but FaZe just have a really good read into how they want to play it, how W7M want to attack it, which again was one of the really big question marks coming into this as the decider map pick. It's like, we've seen W7M play this map once.
Yeah.
And it was yesterday against G2. And it wasn't close, but also they just completely like picked apart G2. Just like, to what extent is that specifically that they're really good into the way G2 wanted to play the game? What part of that is G2 didn't turn up on the day? What part of that is W7M are just a godly labs team now?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't get a good read in it, which made it a really interesting proposition coming into as a final map pick. Where on the other hand, you have FaZe, you're like, no, FaZe is just a very legit labs team. Well, they set up themselves on defense.
Yeah.
They win that first attacking round, and you're like, oh, this is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to a 2v2, and the amount of times, like, obviously, throughout the whole thing, Handy, Nade, that's the duo which have been building up.
Yeah.
Right, throughout this series, right? They've been having a score line of which brother, like, what's the 1v1, like, between the brothers during the major. And, I mean, of course, Handy's up on it, right? Because they were, like, winning maps more early on, and the maps they won were more one-sided, and also Handy is more of, like, your flex, kind of entry player for FaZe Clan, whereas Nade is obviously on your backline, so it makes sense that, obviously, Handy's going to have the upper hand in that one. But the amount of times it comes down, you're like, oh, is it going to be a 1v1 between the brothers, especially on match point?
Yeah.
I think there was 4 rounds where in a 2v2, both of them alive.
Yeah.
Both of them alive in a 2v2, when FaZe Clan are looking down match point, and you're like, the story of, like, these two ending in a 1v1 is just peak story writing. And it's just, like, naturally happening. But just W7M, they hold off every single time. And the amount of situations which FaZe I felt like you're like, just one more.
Yep.
The attacks from FaZe looked better than the attacks from W7M. They're consistently breaking down parts of the map. They're consistently getting us down to this 2 versus 2. But it's because of the aggression coming in, specifically from KZ, so early in this game. Herds has a stinker of a map, by the way. Like, Herds is not present in the first 9 rounds. Maybe 8 rounds.
Yeah, well, he goes 0-6 in the first half.
Right.
Like,
so it's like, he's not here.
And that's Herds.
He's,
like, he's the man. He was the man in Atlanta. Like,
I think, did he get, like, event MVP as well?
I think so at the time. It was KZ that got it for this one. It was Herds the last time, which kind of just speaks to the team, the fact that it's not the same person every time. But
it's just like,
yeah,
they just played it so well, and every single time in these 2v2s, W7M just don't stop. They don't give up. They don't give you the window, and somehow just finding these clutches, and FaZe just can't get that last little leg in. They can't get into the site and get that diffuser down. And the amount of rounds, it's like the Soul stand up is like it's like White Stairs 2.0 all over again. If you stay prone, do you kill there as the Ram in the post plant?
Yep.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to call. We had a big discussion about this with MC, where we just like sort of sat there, just like, does this, like, rewatching it, like, is this White Stairs 2.0? It's not quite as egregious. It doesn't feel quite as bad in the moment, but like maybe it is. What a game! And Felipox and Nade turn up. by the way. Like, Nade specifically just somehow just reverts back into the clutch machine, where it's like, if this guy's alive, you're just like, okay, like, there's nothing you can do here. The 2v4, hands down, highlight for me of this map is the 2v4. It's round 10. You're looking down 6-4, right? And it's 1 minute 10 on the round. You're attacking basement as FaZe Clan, and you're in a 4v2. It's Nade and Philippox left. 4v2. Minute 10, easy. You've got all the vert already made with your RAM. They just don't. They just don't. And it comes down to the 2 versus 2 eventually, because just, again, you're trying to walk down, you're trying to set yourself up to move down towards cargo. You can't. And it's just this little wraparound play in the basement. The two of them, so hard to pin down, so hard to find. And you see that round flip, and you're like, okay, I think this is done. Like we were sat there just like, I think that's the round they lose SI, by the way. Yeah. When you're that far ahead in a round that wins you the event, and you can't finish it off, and you get like 2v4 pulled back, like, I don't know. It was peak Siege.
It was landing Siege. And you kind of mentioned that Herds didn't quite find his groove in that final map.
He was gunning by the end.
Yeah, I just want to add to that like, Herds also won them the final round. Like, he just swings the breach and gets a double. Like, he just pulls it from a 4-3. Like, well, it's 3-3 at that point, but he pulls it to a 3-3 to 3-1. Like, they kill him on the breach, and it's over. It goes to the full OT, and then potentially onto, of course, unlimited OT, and it can go for ages. But this is the thing with this W7M roster. Like, who is it? Like, you go, like that final round, KZ gets picked first, right? He's been the man. He was the man for that event, right? He's the MVP. Yes, like, it was equaled. Him and Herds having the same like kill and stuff like that on the team, but KZ had the bigger moments, and did more for the team and stuff, and throughout it, he gets picked first, and they then lose another one. They lose TV92, and then it's the rest of the team is putting it back to Philippox, Nade, and Herds, and it's like, which one? Like, it's not like you pick someone off and you're like, oh great, yeah, that's their fragger. Like, sometimes, like, you kill Shaiko and BDS and you go, cool, brilliant, we've killed the top, we've killed the fragger, we killed Bolo, cool, we've killed the fragger, we can breathe, right? That's not W7M. It just isn't, right? You kill one of them and it's like, oh, there's another one, like, oh no, like, it's just like, it's just insane. And I can't, like, if you haven't watched this game, right, if you haven't watched the grand final, if you only ever watch one game of Siege, if this is the first time you've ever listened to a podcast, if you never watched esports, if you never like Siege esports, and you've just been kind of in the casual side of things, watch this game, watch this one map, for just like the atmosphere, the Brazilians, it was insane. And also I want to like shout out as well, Xenox and Guz, the Aussies, the pairing, they both of them get to cast the final. Was very surprised when they got announced. They got to do it. I'm glad they got to do it. I'm glad that we're getting to diversify who does finals and giving everybody a good crack at it. And I've not always been one that's been sold on TriCast, but having the sprinkling of Pengu in there as well was really, really nice. It was an outstanding cast. It was an outstanding game to watch. It was entertaining. It was just, it was electric. Like, oh my god, it's just. It is like the best. Yeah, it's just literally the best game. Like, that is it.
It was so good. I think the thing that was so spectacular about it from W7M, in terms of their resilience, right, is like they're still playing W7M defense into FaZe here, right? And it's like, it's labs. You're 6-1 down, and you're thinking, cool, this is defense map. We just hunker and we wait, right? No, they're still getting aggressive. They're still taking it out to FaZe Clan, and it's like, the amount of rounds, if you go back and look through, that FaZe Clan is starting the attacks like 4-5 or 4-4 because they like trade on us on like an early kill, is absurd. Like, they're just not given the control. They're not given any respect by W7M.
Yeah.
And this is a really big part of why they're able to pull it back, because they don't revert out of playing themselves. And W7M know that, like, we keep playing our own game. Like we can pull this back, and the whole thing was spectacular. The Intero tweet 5-1 down, where it's like, if any team can win from 5-1 down, it's W7M. Perfect. It just adds to the storyline. There's no way we're like the amount of like great moments throughout this series as a whole is astonishing. And I think this quickly just like there was this poll going around, and it was what was the greatest team? What's the greatest game? What's the greatest team? The G2 EG final is a banger. It's a banger for sure. It's like you're looking at 3 greatest games in Siege history, and it's like this SI final just gone, 2018 SI final between Penta and EG, and then it's the Berlin major with FaZe and Rogue. Those are the 3 greatest games of all time. They're all best of 5s, of course, because 5-map best of 5s are bangers.
Yep.
It's impossible for it not to be. I mean, I guess it could not be, but, at this level, it's impossible for it not to be. This is the greatest game, and it's like, I think the Penta roster, the Penta whole event is, like, so, like, nostalgic for me. And I can understand why people are like, nah, that Penta roster is the best team to ever play the game. But at this point, you're just wrong. Like, I'm sorry, like, they were great. But you look at everything that goes into who this W7M roster are, and if anything, them looking more mortal this SI adds to, like, their greatness rather than detracting from it. Right? Because this is one of these things where it's like, oh, but, they could have lost to VP. Oh, they were down in the final. It's like, yes, that's what makes it so great, is that even when the best team in the world is backed into a corner, they find these angles to win that you're not expecting them to. They're not expected to win from 6-1 down, right? FaZe need 1 round win just to close things off. They can't find it. It forces OT. They win out. VP, they're up. They're sort of chasing down against overtime. They chase down overtime. They take the lead. They win in overtime. Like, this adds to W7M as a team that just doesn't back down. You can get a lead up on them, but you're not beating them, right? and just this ability to come back from anything is just it elevates them above. The level of competition that they're playing against is so much higher. G2, right, in their prime, right? Let's realistically look at this. In their prime, right? The SI run in 2018, the format was completely different. It was 16 teams. They play in a 4-team group where the top 2 go through to quarterfinals. They ace their group, sure. Like, their group, like, let's be real, they ace that group every time. I can't remember exactly who was in it. I think they had one other EU team, and then a Brazilian team, and an NA team, and it just wasn't really that close. Like, they just wiped their group, basically. Quarters, semis, good games from them, don't get me wrong, but it's not like nothing special, right? Like, the level of competition they're playing against. That EG final, banger. So fucking good. I think their semi-final was a 2-1. I can't remember who they played now. But that final, obviously, to come back, to turn it around, amazing game. But the level of competition at that event is not on par with what W7M are facing against today. It's not on par with the amount of strong and deep regions that we have. Remember, 2018 was before Brazil was really that strong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they weren't that great a region yet. It was the next year that they started to come to the forefront of things and really challenging in, like, Pro League finals and titles. That's when they won Atlanta the following thing in Season 7. So, I just think the where the game's at, the understanding of the game, the level it's played at, both on an individual and strategic level, W7M are the best team that's ever touched Siege.
I think I'm in agreement with you. I think, though, obviously the thing is that I started watching, like, at the tail end of the Penta G2 stuff, so I didn't really kind of experience it. So I'm not attached to it in, like, a nostalgic kind of way and stuff like that. I don't have as much, like, context as, like, maybe someone like yourself and someone that's kind of been in the esports side at least a bit longer. But they're definitely the best team I've ever watched. I mean, 3 back-to-back events in a competitive year is incredible. it's an incredible achievement. And I think that I'm excited to kind of see where it goes as well, because I mean, there's no doubt about it. It is the Siege Dynasty right at the minute. They are like, even if they were to disband right now, like people like that's that like they've solidified themselves as like at least one of the best teams ever, if not the best. And I think that there's still potentially more. The thing is, obviously, they won't be associated with W7M. We know that. We know that W7M are parting ways with them. We don't quite know where they're going yet officially. I think there's been people kind of floating different things around. I'm not going to get into that, but I don't think we quite have an idea of where they're going to be. But I'm hoping that they stay together as a core. I'm hoping that stays the same. I'm hoping, and they just transfer to somewhere else and they just continue plodding on. I want to I don't want to see it end and them just kind of splitting up. Also, by the way, just to add on, there was a real possibility, like if it wasn't for G2 last year having an absolute stormer run, W7M could have had 2 back-to-back SIs and double majors, which is crazy.
It's also possible that team doesn't change, right? Like I mean, like it's one of these weird things where like the W7M roster from that SI, right, obviously had Volps and Julio. Julio retires, Volps gets stolen over to Liquid. Like what? They win SI, make those changes. Like, is that necessarily what happens? Like, yeah, exactly. I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a weird one, but yeah, like this team has been at the top for ages, and then it's like, oh, they're not a dynasty yet. Like, they need to win one more. It's like,
how long? Like, how many do they need to win before people are actually?
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like, come on.
The back-to-back majors.
Because the more you doubt them, the more you're just inviting them to do it. Like, evidently they just feed off of it. Like, it's just like, yeah, cool, whatever. We'll just keep putting up the numbers, guys. We'll just keep cracking on. And they're obviously not going to be under W7M going forward. I'm going to be hopeful of this to remain together as a 5, and they can kind of just keep doing what they do best and just keep stacking the trophies and trying stuff. Obviously, we don't like. It's kind of like two edges to the coin. Like, you kind of, or two sides to the coin, where like you don't want to see like dominance from a team because you want to have like a bit more competitiveness, so you can kind of be a bit more like wild card towards each event, where you can kind of any team can win it, and you can kind of back your team going in and be like, oh yeah, like I want my team to win it, and it's they could, and like obviously we're at this point where it's like it's gonna be a Brazilian team. Like let's be honest, it's gonna be a Brazilian team. I've said like quite publicly, I think that this is the kind of tail end of the Brazilian dominance. I think that things are starting to look better for well, I said that before the rosters were all announced. Anyway, but I think that we're gonna start to see more coming through. I think NL are starting to pick up a little bit better. Some of the teams that they showed, SI looked a bit nicer as well, and also EU as well made some banging changes to some of the rosters and some of the things coming through. So I think that we will still get the Brazilian teams floating at the top. I don't think we're going to keep seeing Brazilian teams in the final, though. I think that we're going to start to see a bit more coming through. And I do want to see that, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, the more people like doubt W7M's dynasty, the more I want them to just keep doing it. Because I'm like, yeah, like, you just don't understand Siege. Like, like, they are just the best team. It was like when people were annoyed against, like, when they played against Lost in the final in Atlanta, and you were like, oh, people are like, oh, this is a boring game because like they're just steamrolling on. And I was like, oh no, it's literally W7M are playing outstanding Siege. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm torn, right? Like, I wanted W7M to win this event. And again, like I've been saying it for ages. We were chatting about this yesterday, right? Like, just the amount of times that people are like, "Oh, if you think it's a win, it's like W7M." It's like we don't need to have this confidence. Like, I was saying this yesterday. I think there were 3 what I would consider like correct opinions, right? It's like if you say one of the teams that isn't these 3, I think you're just wrong.
Yeah.
Which were W7M, FaZe, and G2.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, and this was the same 3 that I had for Atlanta. And it was a very similar 3 that I had for Copenhagen. That being said, I was a bit like hands up there. I did not expect W7M to come in and win Copenhagen. That was not something I was like ready for. I thought they'd be pretty good still coming off of SI, but I didn't think they'd just come in and win the whole thing.
Yeah, but your roster as well, you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the G2, right? Like that was I was back in the boys.
Yeah.
But like you just watched that event and you just knew it was just like this is they were just built different. And it's been really good to see them coming through. I just think those were the three teams that was coming into SI being like, I think these are the teams that have a chance of winning. Like, again, like another Jesse Gem was it was streaming the Rush. No, yeah, Rush. He was streaming Rush, like co-streaming the Rush games, and he was talking a little bit about SI and a bit of downtime. And someone puts in his chat like, oh, like what do you think of VP? And he's like, like I don't know. I don't really care much for VP, right? I don't like. I think they'll be whatever. I think they'll continue to do VP things. They'll turn up, they'll be fine, and then they'll go home.
Yeah.
And someone's like, "Oh nah, you're like don't be sleeping on VP," and he just off the cuff just goes, "Not only will I be sleeping, I'll be hitting snooze and going back to bed." I'm just like, that is the perfect way to look at this, right? Because VP coming in, like I can see you saying like I think they could have a dark horse run.
Yeah.
But so much of their run here was reliant on other things around them, right? Like having a really good read into the meta, coming in and the meta really fitting the style they want to play the game. That was obviously great. And if you could see that coming and you call that, great. But like there's just a lot of takes coming in where it's like, oh, I think like SSG might win SI, and it's like politely no. Like you can put this forward as a dark horse opinion. But I think you have to then put that sort of connotation of like, this is a dark horse. This is something that could happen if the conditions are met, right? There's this the other like the card game I play, like Flesh and Blood, right? There's like different characters, different deck archetypes, whatever. And there's this idea of like gem luck, which is like gem is the software that like determines your matches, your rounds. So you look at your like the website on your phone, you're like, cool, I'm playing this person, and you go find the table you have to sit out, right? And it's called gem. And gem luck is just like you hit that button. Does the software give you a favorable matchup, right? And I want a term for like this in Siege, where it's like, I can see a team winning if they get really favorable matchups. If the bracket just fucking suits them really well, they can luck out in the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's so many things that can just not go your way in Siege, and like, if a team is just like, if you're not like a front runner top team in the world, I don't see you coming in like with people like how you can back some of these teams to come in and like win SI. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it maybe like an old Pro League finals back in the day where it was like there were 8 teams and you played a quarters, a semi, and a final.
Yeah.
And like you'd get these runs where it was like what G2 in Paris play like ENT's Secret and then like EG.
Yeah.
And it's like ENT's Secret EG. It's like, okay, great. Like I can see quite a few teams who can take those 3 teams on, right? Like that's not a hard run to make at that point in time, right? Like EG, pretty good team. The other 2, like ENT's, were going through a couple of roster iterations at the time. They were sort of shaking things around for a bit. I believe they had just lost Kanto as well. Was Kanto moving over to G2? It's just like, was that just after? I can't remember. No, this is where Kanto moves over. So it's like, do you know what I mean? Like the whole thing doesn't quite work out for them. But you know what? Like you can do that. An event this big, double elimination playoffs, you can't do it. You can't do it. You see what happens? W7M play one bad game. They're still in the event. They still just come back and beat you later.
Yeah, exactly. But also, like, they also, like, if you look at the team that they had to beat, by the way, they had to beat, like, everyone. like...
Well, yeah, because you have to.
They have to beat Sonics. Like, it's like, the teams that are, like, Sonics, one of the strongest coming out of the groups, you're like, okay, shit, like, they look really strong. Like, G2, like, current holders of the hammer, slap them. Virtus Pro, one of the best performing teams as well coming out of groups. Like, they have to slap them. Like, ugh.
So it's like, oh, you lose to Wolves in the first round. You go down to the lower bracket. Your punishment: play NiP, Space Station, Sonics, G2, VP, FaZe to win a title. By the way,
crazy, absolutely crazy.
You have to beat all 7 of those teams. You lose one of those games and you're out of the event.
Yeah.
And arguably, you lost to Wolves. I would argue, apart from NiP, all those teams are better than Wolves. In fact, Space Station and FaZe and Sonics straight up all beat Wolves in the head-to-head like 2-0.
So
it's like
it's mental.
it's like great. you actually just have to play all the teams that beat you. Actually, I think they beat Space Station in groups, didn't they? They beat them in groups. But, do you know what I mean? Like, the runs you have to make at events this big, you have to be just a step above everyone else.
Exactly. And they prove it. Third time they did it. It's insane. That's 2 majors in a row. Finished off with an SI, so that's every single competition in the competitive year. Stage 1 starts in 5 days, and we'll see if they can continue. We'll see who it's going to be under. I mean, I've not heard anything yet as of this being recorded. I mean, there's been some rumours and stuff been floating around, but don't know how true they are, but we'll see what they're under. We'll see what they've got for us. I imagine that this team's going to be going for a while. I think that we've not seen the last of W7M.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is like they're leaving W7M, right? This is another thing, actually. Yeah, like we were talking about this again last night. It's like, what is it with people just creating fake reasons for W7M to lose? Like, we've actually hit that level of desperation where it's like an article comes out saying that W7M aren't re-signing, like the roster isn't re-signing with the organization. It's like, okay, cool. And everyone's like, oh, it's the last dance. This team's so cooked. They don't have jobs next stage. It's like, it's literally W7M. Like, they're not turning down W7M to then become, like, jobless, are they? Like, they're obviously just finding a new org that's going to, like, probably pay them more. That's what's happening here. This isn't rocket science. It's like, we're the best team in the world. We want more money. It's like, well, yeah, you're the best team in the world. You probably deserve more money. Like, this is just how contracts in sports. It's how contracts in every job should work. If you're the best, you just ask for more money, and if they don't give it to you, just go elsewhere where they will. Obviously, job markets don't always work like that. But within sport context, that's exactly how it works. It's like, oh, it's the last dance. It's like, yeah, the last dance narrative was pushed by W7M because they know it is the organization's last dance with this roster. Yeah. This isn't the last dance of this roster. By the way, last dances, why is this always assumed to be a negative thing? Last dances, historically, across a bunch of titles, have always been amazing for having these stellar runs at events. Because what happens, like, when you're in a team in like a team environment, right? You have this whole thing that builds up, where it's like, players will have disagreements. Coaching staff will have disagreements with themselves, with players. There's always different ideologies or, like, battles that are fought within teams for how you play a game. And you look at, like, teams like, a great one is, like, DRX in League of Legends in, like, 2022, right? They win Worlds. Is that team the best team at Worlds? No. That team is nowhere near the best team at Worlds. They're maybe, like, 5th best roster at Worlds that year. But it's like, they're on a last dance. None of the players have contracts next split. Like, this is literally, like, 3-4 of these players are being dropped by the organization. One of them staying on, the rest have to go find jobs elsewhere. Right? And it's like, that's a situation where it's like, what happens there is players just stop caring to argue. Right? Because it's like, there's no longer this whole point in, like, having these massive arguments with players, because you just go, like, we just play one more event. Like, if you're coming into SI and you dislike one of your teammates, but you know you're not playing with them in 2 weeks' time, you just go, oh, you know what? Well, like, does it matter if this guy thinks Fuse is the best operator in the game? No, not really, because I just wait 2 weeks and then I have a real teammate. Let's just, like, deal with this for the next 2 weeks. And you just put up with it. You just don't care to fight these arguments, and you just become slightly more coordinated as a response of it. Like, the chemistry builds up because you don't have to fight these battles, and things just click sometimes. Last dances are, like, famous because everyone knows it's the last shot, and so everyone just sort of gets on board with it being the last shot, right? You have this very clear identity for what your team is, and it also takes away a lot of pressure sometimes, right? Because it's like, sure, so there's part of it which is like you're looking for, like, jobs or whatever, but the other half of it is like, if we lose, does it matter? No, I'm already getting dropped by this team. My catalog of work should be enough. I don't think it's that bad. But that doesn't even apply to W7M. So I don't know why, like, it still came up. Like, the most egregious one was the crowd. Oh no, I don't know if W7M will be able to play when people like them at the event. I'm sorry. What? Like, you're sat in a crowd of, like, what, 10,000 people in the stadium? Like, what, like 95 to 98% of this crowd is going to be Brazilian. Oh, no. I don't know if W7M are going to be able to deal with the pressure of the crowd cheering them on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm no expert, but usually when someone is cheering for you, it helps.
Certainly does. And it helped W7M. Like, it helped all the Brazilian teams to some degree, and then we got obviously the greatest final ever with 2 Brazilian teams, and I think the crowd were predominantly more behind W7M than they were FaZe. I think from listening to them and stuff and listening back to it.
That's how it felt.
That's what it felt. But yeah, to kind of put I guess an end to the SI 2024 conversation. Obviously, W7M, they win it. They're now your current hammer holders. Will no longer be called W7M, so we'll see who they'll be under in future. So keep an eye on that. Next week we will be in with like roster updates and stuff. So we will have that information presumably next week as to who they'll be under. Hopefully. I would imagine if they're playing, they will be playing this time next week. So I'm gonna hope that they're.
It'd be nice to know.
It would be nice to know the teams before we actually start. Kicking a football, I guess. So yeah.
Do you know what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
I heard that Team Empire were moving to Brazil. They wanted a hammer eventually.
The absolute scenes as they moved to another. But to be fair, there's a lot of roster roulettes all over the place. People moving different. Lost. We already know Lost are going to be in NAL now, which is like it's
kind of crazy.
It is wild. They're all over the place. But anyway, we're going to wrap up the Six Invitational 2024 kind of recap. Obviously, W7M. They cap off their stellar year, cement themselves as the greatest roster of all time, 3 back-to-back competitions, and let's be honest, there's probably going to be more on the horizon. But to look forward to what else could be happening this year, we have also got the Year 9 roadmap that was announced as well on the same day. So we're going to go over the Year 9 roadmap. We'll go over what's to come this year for Siege, and also we'll go over like the kind of Season 1 and stuff as to what's kind of individually going to be launching on Tuesday, which is only 4 or 5 days away from now, so it's pretty close. So yeah, keep your ears open for this portion. Anyway, Year 9, I have it in front of me. We're gonna gloss over the year stuff. We'll pick out a couple of things. We'll gloss over definitely over Season 1 now, because we're gonna come back and discuss it in a bit more in depth. Anyway, so we'll just go over that very quickly, and then we'll maybe talk about a few other ones and go from there. So Season 1, Operation Deadly Omen. Of course, we haven't got anything. The other names of the other seasons, they don't announce them until closer to the time, which comes alongside a new operator, which will be Deimos. We'll come back to that shortly. A couple new things, revamped shield mechanic. We've knew about that for a while. Attachments and ADS upgrade, which is quite something a bit different. I guess we'll talk about that shortly. Locker, which is an inventory menu. Finally. Again, we're going to fly through these very quickly. We've got data bans, stuff like for the player protection, kind of rank playlist requirements are changing, reputation system update. Balancing wise, Azami getting nerfed, LMGs getting changed. I haven't really looked too much into it as to whether it's a nerf or a buff or whatever. The kind of player comfort side of things, you've got repel improvements, again, much needed, just kind of quality of life, improved gadget pickup, projectile trajectory, again, we'll come back to that. And then some new training stuff like versus kind of AI and kind of map training and stuff like that. Anyway, we'll come back to Season 1 shortly because we have the full patch notes of that. The rest of the seasons though, we don't have the full stuff. This is all we have, so we can talk about these a bit more in length. So first thing, Season 2, they've told us that there's going to be a recruit remaster. And so that means, by the way, so just to kind of skip ahead just ever so slightly, is that there's going to be 2 new operators this season, this year even, and a recruit remaster and an operator remaster. That's changed from, it used to be rework, now it's remaster. They've changed the lingo. So only 2 new operators. So slightly different. So take that with a pinch of salt. Take that whatever you want to take it. If that's a bad thing or if that's a good thing. I personally think it's fine. I think we're at the point where we have enough operators already. Anyway, I think it's decent. We have a decent spread. I think going down to 2 is okay as long as we're getting something in its place, which is the remasters, which is fine. The recruit remaster, I don't know how to feel about it. What's kind of your opinions on it?
I think this is interesting. I like the idea of giving recruit back.
Mm.
I know it's recruit shield used to be a thing. I'm kind of hoping we get that back. That was always really funny, mainly because you'd get the 5/7 with shield, which was really nice. And then you'd also get like smokes and nades, or like stuns and nades, and you could just have a bit of fun with it. I think it will be interesting to see. I believe the idea is that they're going to keep the identity of like you can have any number of recruits on a team, which obviously makes sense thematically, right? Because it's like the recruits. It adds a little bit of fun back into the game. If you're playing like your standard, or even if you're in like a stack for ranked and you want to do a little bit of a joke and just be like, cool, we're going to play like the follow the leader where you get one operator and the rest of it will play recruits, or you get like 5 recruits and whatever you want to do. Like, it's nice that we get that back. I'm interested to see what this means on a like competitive level.
Yeah.
Because I think I would expect the idea of maintaining sort of being able to run 2 secondary gadgets is going to be how this works, right? And now you could be like, cool, you can bring the recruit and run EMPs and hard breach gadget, right? Like, that's pretty interesting on a like tactical level, where it's like if you think you're attacking like Oregon and you want a player to go pit. At the moment, you might bring like maybe a Zero, or you bring like an Amaru, and you'll send them over. They'll like open up the wall with the hard breach and sort of bounce off. But obviously, if there's like a Kaid claw thrown there, that's a bit awkward. Like, maybe there's like just a mute jammer. Obviously, you can shoot it off, but just being able to like EMP it, slap that down, it's like cool. I don't get a primary gadget, but being able to add to that sort of utility dump is going to be quite interesting to see what teams do with it. I think it will have to be balanced very carefully so that like you don't just get teams overloading like 3 recruits with a glass or something, and you enter this like nightmare mode where it's like, okay, here's my like 10 stun, like here's my 10 smoke grenades plus like a hard breacher, because you can bring like a thermite as well, plus the fact that like all of these recruits are also going to bring frag grenades, and just like throw 6 frag grenades deep in, because like sure, frag grenades are no longer as powerful as they used to be, but if literally every single doorway has a frag grenade in it all the time, you still can't walk through the doorway. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. I don't mind giving up an operator for it. I think it's the sort of thing where it's like, cool, I'm down to see what this looks like. I've hit a thing now where, you know what, I was very against the nade change at the time. You can go back to our, I think it might have even been our first episode. I was not very happy with it.
No, you were not.
I was not very happy with it. I am now giving Ubisoft a nice little I will wait and see token. Where I will wait and see what these changes are. I now have a little bit more faith in the kitchen staff over at Ubisoft. So you know what? There's like I can revoke that token if they do something, and I think I will be revoking it in a little while. In approximately 10 minutes, I might be revoking that token for a bit, but for the time being, they have a little I will wait and see token.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think like there comes a point, especially for like the longevity of a game, that it's fine not to just always be adding operators. I don't want us to just be always just adding them for the sake of it. I want them to be like polished and unique. If it comes to a point like where we're just repeating stuff like in a different kind of lens, like there's already an argument for some of that already, like the Brava Twitch kind of Flores kind of conversation where like they're very similar but they do things ever so slightly different. So like they do them different enough, but like how many times can you kind of really do that where because you don't want to obviously change your core mechanics of the game too much. It's kind of like, well, Deimos again, similar mechanic to Jackal, right? When we get into that, they're always going to be similar kind of things. It's just going to be like a kind of different look at it. So how many times can you just do that until eventually you're like, right, okay, guys, like we need to just settle down. There's just too much. You don't want to like oversaturate the game. So I think I'm fine with it. Again, we're getting things in it. We're getting things in its place, which is fine. We'll see where the Recruit Master kind of goes. But you know, we'll see. Other things kind of in Season 2 that they've kind of said to us is they've got the reputation system will come out in full. Again, it's been in beta for quite some time, so no surprises there, so it will be in full effect. You'll have the Siege Marketplace coming out as well. It's already out in beta, so get involved in that. Make sure you apply to get involved in that if you want to sell your stuff, which is great, by the way, because you can make a lot of R6 credits, and you can buy things like skins that you've never bought, so again, not nothing that we didn't know was going to be happening. Nice little tidbit, map filters and standard playlists, so you can filter out different maps. Happy to see that.
I wish it was a bit more extensive, but it's fine.
I kind of agree with you as well, probably. But it's fine. It's kind of step in the right direction. I think the playlists are a big point of contention, have been for the last year, and I think they still need tidying up and tweaked. And I think we'll find a good mid ground somewhere.
I have come around on standard. When standard came out, I was like, I'm just not going to touch this. I've played more standard.
Yeah, recently. I think I came around on it.
I think standard fits what it needs to be. I do think it's kind of a shame that there's not an identical parallel to ranked, which, obviously unranked was, which became standard. And there's still that argument of like, the purpose of unranked is to have that semi-ranked environment without the stakes that you can just enjoy. Standard still fills that void well enough for me. It does take away some of like the time commitment, because like you don't have to worry about the map bans, you don't have to worry about operator bans. The overtime being shortened, I'm not a massive fan of, because it can sometimes feel a little bit coin flippy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, cool, I'm playing theme park, and now I just have to attack theme park or I lose, and it's like, cool. Obviously that still exists in ranked, right? Because you might get the half that has 2 theme park attacks, but at least that second one, like in theory, is going to be on a weaker bomb site, right? You're not attacking like initiation cache first. But it's whatever. I think it's fine. Quick play, I still think needs to be. I think honestly, the auto deployment on reinforcements, I think that's the only thing I'd change. I think everything else is fine.
Yeah.
For what quick play is, I think that's my only gripe with quick play at the moment, because I think it needs to be the learning environment for players, and I think if you do the setup for people, they don't learn.
I think I would prefer that still as a beginner playlist as its own thing. I think it's like fine. Newcomer. Yeah, I think that like the newcomer playlist thing, like that lingo, I guess, could come back and just have that be newcomer. This is how you learn how to move in Siege. This is how you learn how to the maps and like how to aim and stuff like that. And then I guess locked when you get like level 20 or whatever. And then it's okay, right? Normal quick match. You can just kind of do whatever you like, freestyle it, baby. Open up, figure out what works, because that's how most people learn. I mean, I spent my first rank was right. I can tell you right now the first time I ever got ranked, which was Ember Rise. What year was that?
Year 4, season 3.
Year 4, season 3. That's the first year I ever got a rank. And I have played Siege since year 1, so I had it since release. I had it since beta. And I never played ranked until year 4, season 3. Like genuinely, and that was like a couple of reasons. I owned the game and then I didn't own the game, and like it was like a kind of on and off kind of love-hate relationship with it. Like for those of you that were around in the early years of Siege, it was it was an interesting game to pick up.
That's an astonishing lack of passion.
That's what it is,
It's an astonishing lack of passion.
Yeah. So there was I didn't properly start with the actual passion until like playing ranked to them. But again, played since the first year, and a lot of that was quick match just with my mates. That was it, like just messing around in like secure area, just having a laugh, and like that's kind of gone now. Like I've just like, I died to this, I died to that, like I didn't realize that's I'm supposed to do that. So we don't really have that now. So I would like to see some more tweaks to the playlist. We'll kind of see if there will be. At any point, but anyway, to move on to kind of from the playlist kind of conversation, player protection stuff still continuing in the background. I think to be fair, that's just happening throughout. Actually, for the full year, they are tweaking the anti-cheat, and they won't tell us too much about it. But one of the things that will be coming later on, that's actually season 4, just to jump ahead, just so that we don't need to talk too much about player protection a lot, is the automated text chat moderation, where like if you say naughty words in text chat, they'll be like blurred out and stuff, so people won't be able to read them and stuff, which is nice later on. But anyway, to crack on with the season 2 stuff, Fenrir change and a Solace change. So that's all 3 of them. The first half of the year, all 3 of the big 3. Zami getting changed in season 1. Fenrir or Sol as well. You want to go big 4 and say Tubara as well.
Solace is getting updated in 2 parts.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I think that they're changing her just to see what is going to happen, I think. I don't know if they go ahead with the 2, dude. I don't know. I didn't actually see what the wording was. There's going to be 2 parts, so like...
The first part, I think, is the range reduction, and then the second part is the off and prep phase.
Is it? Is it that way around? I thought it was the other way around.
It might be the other way around. I thought it was that way around.
I thought it was just off and prep phase, which to be fair, I think that would be enough, to be honest. Off and prep, maybe a range reduction. I suppose I could see that. But the big gripe with Solace is that if as soon as she's on the board, you can't pre-place drones, you can't drone anything, you can't get any intel.
You can't do anything.
Like you just can't, and you like it's about balance. It's about like give and take, and like it's just take. Like you can't actually do anything about it. You're not empowered on the other side of that engagement. So like that makes sense. Fenrir as well is in a similar thing that where as soon as you step into Fenrir, you're like, it's over. See you later, guys. I don't actually know what the changes are going to do, but I welcome them. I welcome some changes. It's been much needed on defense. Some of them, and I like that they also dedicated to the line of they want it to be a tactical FPS. Because a lot of people were having conversations last year and like, are they trying to make this TDM? Are they trying to make this a bit more aggressive? And they were like, no, guys, no. We want this to be as tactical as possible. Anything that's going to be like one-sided or anything, we're taking that away. We're taking it over. It's not happening. A couple other things, I guess, in Season 2 to kind of overlap, just to kind of round out Season 2 is the drone jump pre-visualization, which is just the same as the projectiles that'll be coming next season. You can see where you put your drones, which I think is nice. I'm mixed on it. I'm interested to actually hear what your take is on being able to see where your drone goes or being able to see where your projectile goes.
It's fine. Again, like I have 2 mindsets on it, where it's like, on one hand, I don't think that's the change that makes like the game approachable to new players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think this is a fine change that the nades can't cook, right? Obviously, if you could see when your nade was being cooked, do you know what I mean? Like that'd be something. But no, that's not a thing. I think it's like fine. It's like cool. I can see where I'm gonna throw my smoke grenade.
Yeah,
pretty cool. I'm gonna turn it off, basically immediately, just because it would annoy me.
I think for drones I will, but I think if you can turn both of them off, I think I don't know. I need to see it.
I just think it's going to annoy me. I've just been... I feel like I've been playing enough where it's like... I have a kind of a vague idea where this is going. And realistically, you're never like perfectly lining up your throw anyway. I mean, like, you are if you're like setting up something specific, but like just in the moment, I'd rather just be able to like toss out a stun and just like... Cool, I know if I throw it here, it's going to bounce over the top of the wall, or it's going to go through this hole I'm looking at. That's what I want it to do. Oh, if I throw it this way, it's going to bounce off the door frame. That's fine. I can see that.
I have an idea. I'm actually going to put forward a little suggestion here, Golu. Right? And this is just from experience from a few other FPSs, and maybe just what I want to get from this, right? You can see the full trajectory, by the way. So, like, you can see wherever if you're just throwing a smoke or a nitro, you can see fully where it's going to go over a wall and land, and like that's it. You can see exactly where it's going to go.
If you stand still, yeah.
If you stand still, yeah. If you stand still, is it standing still? Can you not do it when you move? No.
So there's 2 stages to it. So the first is you pull it out, and it will show you the line where you're throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
To see the exact landing spot, you have to sort of be still for a second, and it will like load. Basically.
Okay, right. Okay.
So it's like if you're just like swinging a corner, it's not gonna be like, oh, and it's landing here. It's gonna be like you're throwing it vaguely this line, like you're throwing it this line, and then if you stand still, you can set it up.
Yeah. So I think like, yeah, it's like I'm saying, because like in some other like games and stuff FPSs I've played where like you can't see where it's gonna land, but you can see like the first bit, like the kind of rough idea of what it is. You can see ones that go further, and you can kind of tweak it and stuff. I think if you could tweak it where like it doesn't even, maybe it only activates after you hold it for a while, but if you said that it kind of you don't see the full trajectory until you stand still, I think that we'll see.
I mean, you see where you're throwing it, right? Like it has a good line to it. Like if you whip out a nitro and you're trying to throw it like a ceiling or something, or like over a wall, you'll be able to see very quickly: is this going to hit the ceiling here? Is it going to go over this wall? Like whatever, you'll know. But if you want to like get the full and be like, cool, it's landing exactly this point, then I think that takes just a second to load in. Like it's not like a complete live tracker thing, but you get the whole idea just from looking at it pretty quickly.
I think as well the pros have spoke about turning it off as well. I think they did.
Yeah,
there was conversations about that.
I just think like the only thing that I could think for me personally is like sometimes if I'm below throwing a nitro, it's just like how greedy can I be with how far away I can throw this nitro at a ceiling, right? And that's like the only thing where it's like if I'm trying to throw a grenade, I feel pretty confident like throwing the grenade. Like sometimes I'll bottle it, but I'm not gonna blame it on not having a line for why I bottled it. It'd be like, oh, I just walked out a line of sight and just threw it on myself, or something's dumb like that, right? Like where having that line doesn't change the way I throw it because I still am just a bit of a moron.
Listen, it's a smoke man. I'm gonna be eating, sitting in the back of
I get that. I get that. Right, you can very nicely line up your little lines on smoke. That's gonna feel pretty good. I can see it. I can see it being helpful. I'm not like completely against it. If you enjoy it, great. It's another tool that just helps people.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of whatever. I could see it being like mandatory off in comp.
I think it will be. I think it's like kind of like points. Like points are off in comp. For those of you who don't know that, you don't get points if someone hits a welcome mat on the other side of the map. You don't.
Well, they made the big change with that was that they removed points on injures just across the board.
Yeah.
Which really sort of mirrored that because there was always that whole conversation before of like you'd get the 50 points when you injure someone.
Yeah.
So you could injure someone cross map, not hear the little like audio scream.
And you would just know. Because there's a lot of people. There's like people who like play the points off because they play comp all the time, so they just get used to it because you never get because it's like extra intel stuff like that. Like the one I always think of is mute jammers. When you hit a mute jammer, it tells you like observation thing, like blocked or whatever, or a drone caught or whatever. The amount of points you get from that, like the 15 points, you can see. Oh, like I've caught like 3 drones in a mute jammer. You don't have that.
There was always the thing that you could do was like press tab. So like if you were playing, like I'm trying to think of an example, but like I can't think of one in my head. Like maybe bandit tricking or something, and you're like, did I get the?
No, you tab it just to check if your points went up.
You could press tab, see your points. You put the bandit battery down. Oh, press tab again. Oh, my points gone up by 10. Oh, I hit an exothermic charge or something like this, right? Like that was always something you could do, which was always pretty good. But yeah, there's always ways around it, right? But again, that's just like clever interaction with like looking at your score and things like this. And that's always fine. But yeah, I mean, again, it comes under that sort of bracket of things. I think the information's maybe fine to have. I'll come back to it. Maybe I'll come back to it and be like, I really just hate this existing. I don't think that's going to be very likely. I think it's likely to be like, I don't really care.
I think like, let's be realistic. The only thing to come out of it that's going to affect people's daily is dying to more nitros, right? And more people knowing nitros. That's I think is the only way that's going to change. Like, I think that like your success rate on flashbangs, nades, things like that won't fluctuate that much. Maybe smoke mains, but that's about it. But most smoke mains kind of know what they're doing anyway, right? I think that nitros, like, instead of having to know all the lineups in the game of like where your nitros could be, you can kind of learn them on the fly, if you want to call that.
The other really funny thing with smokes and nitros specifically is that if you're like using them really super efficiently, you're doing it in a way which prevents line of sight, so you're kind of not seeing where it lands anyway. Yeah. Like you're not seeing the bottom of that arc. I think, right? Like if you're really like smoking smoke, right? Like you're doing like your like bank basement like full lineup where you're sitting back in CCTV and you press W as you throw it for a little bit of extra momentum and it adds to the height and you're throwing it through like a hole in the ceiling. And like doing all this crazy stuff with it, right? Like full on Kobeing it. You're not seeing the bottom of that arc anyway. Like it's just being used to like line it through a head hole. Yeah,
I think I think that's where the big difference is. But I think like you know what actually I can tell you for a fact is going to happen. By the way, like, and I want we'll get statistics on this. I'll do this in my rank game. How many more people died to the bottom main C4 in Clubhouse? By the way. After this pre-visualization, because you can now, because that wall, getting over that church wall, it used to be really, really easy. It used to be way easier because there was like little markings on it that you could kind of aim at. So like I was hitting that C4 every time. I was like, I'll stand in the corner, cool, aim there, boom, every single time. Just get that C4 right over the church wall to put him in, get my double kill or get whoever stacked up there, and moving on. Now obviously like with the pre-visualization, you can kind of just aim that, and then you don't actually have to have like a pre-lineup area or like so like there's going to be a bit more on the fly with them, and there's going to be more people that know about it, because like sometimes you still kill people and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
I like this existing for things like that. Specifically though, for learning things like that, I would then really like it if it like wasn't on in ranked. So it's like you can do it in your standard games, sure. Like, I mean, maybe on in ranked, but off in comp or something like this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think for me that's where it probably will lie. I'm fine with you having it in ranked. I would rather not see it in comp, because I think that's the sort of thing that you should be learning. Like, learning lineups is an important part of like gadget usage.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, you know, in CS you can see like the lines if you go on like replays, or like you can turn them on in some modes, right? So it's like I'm fine with that existing as well. But in comp, I don't want to see like be like, oh, if I stand here and I just hold this here, I know for sure. Like, you should only know for sure if you're so confident because you've practiced it, not because there's a line telling you it's going to work.
Well, yeah, like that church one is going to be the first one that I use, even though I know the lineup for it. Now I can be lazier with it. Now I can just pop in here and be like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, you can just run into church and just look at it until you get it over, and then just yeet it.
Yeah, and it won't get caught in the lip, because sometimes that happens, and it's just like, like that's what's gonna.
I still think the Nitro is going to be really funny, because the line, I just have a feeling that the line isn't going to match the hitbox of the C4.
Yeah,
I'm telling you now, the line won't match the hitbox of the C4.
Yeah,
and people will lose C4s and get annoyed about it.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, the projectile trajectory one that comes season 1. The actual the one for the drone though, that comes in season 2. Which again, I don't think I'm bothered about that. I think the drone one is completely fine. I don't think that adds anything. I think it adds like for newer players, maybe. For me, I don't think it make any difference whatsoever. I know how much your jump is. The only thing I would like to know is whether I'm going to get one of those really limp jumps, or if I'm going to get one of a proper jump. That's the only thing I want to know. But I think that's fine. The rest for the training and stuff, for the onboard and stuff that they kind of discussed, it's the same each season. They're just going to be adding kind of new stuff to target drill, tweaking it, and like the AI modes. They're going to be getting additional kind of maps and stuff like that. It's the same for all 4 seasons, and there's going to be. They did say there is going to be an unlimited one, though, like a 60-minute, or it's like a 60-minute one where you can just sweep through the map. There's just going to be loads of different. So basically, it's going to be T-Hunt with stationary targets, which is what people wanted. They just wanted targets to. They just wanted to go through and shoot targets.
I'm a little shocked they didn't roll out with that, just because that seems like the most desirable part of a new map training. It's just like unlimited shooting, but it's coming, right? And so I think that's fine. Yeah,
I'm happy with that. I kind of said for the start, like they kind of explained that they were removing T-Hunt for a reason, and I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine as long as we get a kind of stand-in, which I think we are eventually getting our stand-in anyway. But yeah, it's decent. Season 3 though has a couple other things that I am absolutely delighted to see. Of course, new operator coming that season, battle pass, all the kind of usual goodness that you usually get with a normal season. Siege Cup eventually finally returns after they announced it years ago, where you can kind of have like essentially like face it like tournaments basically, or Go 5s actually in client built into the game, so you can queue up with your 5-man at the weekend or whatever, or whenever the like tournament is. Do your tournament, get R6 credits presumably, or whatever it is. If you win it, and it's
some like skin or something. Yeah,
it's good. I've always said this: Siege has always needed a competitive mode like that from day dot. It just is. Ranked is competitive to some degree, but there's nothing like queuing up with a full 5-stack into a competition when there's like money on the line, or there's clout on the line. There's just nothing like that.
And the best part about this as well is it will probably be like rank based. So if you queue up, like, because this has existed in League for ages, I say a couple of years now, and it's something that like with some mates is always really good fun to do. We haven't done one in ages actually, but we're trying to rebuild our stack. So the problem is trying to convince one of our mates to play ADC, because they're all like top jungle mains. It's just like, come on guys, like one of you has to take the short straw and play with my bard. But I'm waiting for like I'm hoping that we'll see a sort of tiered thing, right? Where it'll be like it'll take like an average of your team. If you play in a lot of these events, it will like buff you up. Like if you're like all silver players, but you consistently win every single Siege Cup you do, it starts to like boost your little like rank, like personal. I kind of want like a separate like soft cup ranking where it's not hard done. You're split into like 5 divisions effectively, right? And it's done that way or something like this, so that like you could be a low level ranked player, but if you're like in a fucking like studded cup team, like you're playing against slightly harder opponents sometimes. I'm really excited for Siege Cup. I think it's gonna be a good laugh. I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, it will be.
Be a nice way to kill an afternoon every other week or something like this.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I don't know what the format is. Like, I've not seen what the format they discussed, but I'm hoping it's like full comp rules. Where
I think it will be full comp rules.
I think because like again, a lot of people don't. I mean, we've just talked about it just recently. Like the fact that points aren't on. A lot of people, like in the casual community, even just people who just play ranked, haven't experienced an actual comp game in the actual settings. Like the 6, like you play 6 on one side, you play 6 on the other side. You can have the overtime, like longer overtime, like all that kind of stuff. People haven't experienced that. So that'd be nice. I'm always open for more people experiencing the competitive side of Siege because I think it's the most competitive game there is. And I think that'd be good. Now, for season 3 though, the thing I am most excited about is badges and career. I am an absolute. Well, I was going to say something different there, but it's fine. I'll reword it. I'll say I just absolutely love statistics for my own gameplay, purely because the way that I play Siege, I'm not interested in KD. I'm just not, right? I've said it multiple times. I'm a smoke main, right? My biggest satisfaction is yeeting those smokes deep, denying the plant, and like winning a round. That's for me. I don't care if I get a 4K, as long as I'm even or positive. That's what I want. I don't care, right? So the career statistics, being able to see whatever statistic they give us, I don't care. Just give me everything, whether it's lifetime points, whether it's headshot percentages. I don't care what it is. Just give me it. Give me something. Give me all of it. That's what I want to see. I'm excited for that for season 3. Just because I love anything that takes us away from just having KD as a metric. Because Siege is way more than KD. We all know it is. Like KD's not really measured. Like it's measured, and to some degree it measures, but cost is like the king. Really, is what people kind of go by. So being able to do that from your game is just so inviting. I love that.
Yeah, they would get fun. It's nice to just have a little bit of like reason to add to operators. Like
yeah.
If you play a whole load of Sledge, cool. You get like a cool like Sledge badge thing.
Yeah, the badge. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to equipping my 6th Guardian ones and getting hate in all chat again. That's gonna be fun.
Yep.
That's what I did in Apex. That's what currently my Apex ones, and works every time in Apex. Is the Siege community made different? Judging by the banners, probably not. So look forward to picking up those reports.
I'm excited. I love a lot about the badges and stuff. Yeah, you can kind of decorate your stuff. I'm not too bothered about that. I just remember being like top 0.5% for like domination points on Modern Warfare 1, and I was like so obsessed with like getting to like the upper echelon. I think I got to like the point where it was like the top 10 players on the remastered version just for points alone on domination, because I was just capping flags left, right, and center. That's all I cared about. Like that's what I'm all about. Like true support player in heart. Whatever. It's nothing to do with the fact that I can't shoot straight, but we'll not talk about that.
The real crime there is playing Modern Warfare Remastered over Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is the vastly superior game. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is iconic.
To be fair, I don't worry. Hey, listen. I was in the trenches for Battlefront 2. Don't you worry. I was there. Getting the jet troopers jumping over.
Unironically, that game was and still is so good.
Yeah.
Like, if the loot box scandal hadn't been as egregious as it was, that game is like set to be super successful.
Exactly. We're not going to go down that route before we start crying over what could have been.
I will start crying.
Well, continue.
I pre-ordered that game. I pre-ordered one game since. There is one. I've never pre-ordered that game by itself put me off of pre-ordering because I love that game so much, but loot boxes sucked, and everyone else who pre-ordered it spent like millions of pounds buying all the cards. So I load into my first game in like the little like on day one, and instantly just like, oh, Palpatine with all purple cards, and it's like has like 20% extra damage on lightning, has like an extra charge of his spin that flies around. His vortex does like 50% bonus damage for zero reason. It's like, cool. I have the upgraded recon SMG on my recon class.
To pull you back before you go off the rails completely, welcome back to Season 3. Shooting range access during matchmaking. Well. I think it's a delightful little quality of life. I'm happy with that. You matchmake.
I mean, these
we
are all just good quality of life changes.
Yeah,
right?
like I think most of the stuff this year is, which I think, because people kind of made cases for like an Operation Health, which I never think the game is in like that bad a state for that. I think it's fine. I think like the cheating conversation is always like there.
Wouldn't say no to another Operation Health.
But I feel like this year feels very Operation Healthy. As in, like, feels like there's a lot of quality of life. Like, we're getting new things added left, right, and centre. Yes, but there's also, like, just small tweaks here and there. And just giving us a shooting range while we load for a game is, like, very straightforward. And something that's quite nice. Also, part of that season for Season 3, you have the Solace update part 2, which was already mentioned, and the Decabe update, which I think I was surprised, but not surprised, if that makes sense. I think Global Operator, you hit a button, affects the entire round.
Yeah, she had to be looked at.
It had to be. Like, I think any operator that has that, I think has to kind of, where there's no risk, there's no, like, she can just stand inside the building and just do that. I think that makes sense. Again, we'll see how they do it. Deployable gadgets pre-visualize. It's kind of interesting that they're, like, putting the deployable, like, the pre-visualization things in, like, pieces. Like, you get it for the projectiles, then you get it for the drones, and then you get it for deployable gadgets for, like, pre-visualization stuff. I
don't get what that means by for deployable gadgets. Is that just like deployable shields? Like, what am I pre-visualizing?
I think when you have it in your hand, you see where it's gonna go down. I think that's what it was, if I remember rightly.
I guess.
So I can't even think where that would be helpful. Okay. That isn't a projectile. Like, deployable gadgets.
I can see where my mirror window goes like, in the window. No, but a prox is a throwable.
Exactly. That I don't know. We'll figure it out when it comes in. Customs 1v1
I get
preset.
to see where my reinforcement goes.
We got some changes to customs prefets. It's a bit... Okay.
Yeah, I think that's like the 1v1.
That's fine.
Right, that's like fine.
Yeah, a couple of presets. That's completely fine.
Saves Jinxie a bit of time every now and again.
Exactly. Yeah. Season 4 does get quite spicy though. Operator remaster again. They hinted at it. It's a US operator.
What you mean the definitely not a Blackbeard remaster?
Yeah, exactly. It's a Blackbeard remaster. Like, let's be honest. Like, they basically said it to us. Like,
they basically said it.
Yeah, I think that they're just trying to. I think that they are admitting it. I don't think it's like a secret. I think they're just having a laugh with it. I think they're just having a bit of jest with it. That like we know it's been overdue for a while. Like, it will be a Blackbeard change.
I still stand by Ota is the Blackbeard rework.
Yeah, I think most people would say that.
I don't know. I think it's good that Blackbeard's getting addressed because this operator is just disgusting.
It's just pretty much. It was way too strong when he released. Now he's just way too weak. You can't really justify it.
1v1 last night, to be fair.
Like, it gives you like a tiny margin for it, but 9 times out of 10 doesn't make too much of a difference. So it's like, you can't justify him over someone else. Is basically where he sits.
If you're picking Blackbeard, you're sort of resigning into the idea that you just want to take a gunfight, right?
Exactly.
Which I think again they'd sort of talked about, like, wanting to move away from, like, re-emphasize the tactical nature of Siege.
Yeah.
I was a little I get why. I was a little bit disappointed with the way that they just straight up were like, we're gonna kill the TDM meta, because again it implies it's real. It's not. But that's a whole nother line of thought. I don't know if we want to go down right now. I appreciate the steps that they're taking. The biggest issue I have, why not? We'll roll back a second. The Fenrir Solace updates, just bring it in Season 1. just bring it in season 1, Ubisoft. Like, I just want these operators nerfed now. Like, the best thing about this whole roadmap they've given us is the communication. It's, you're getting this here, you're getting this here, this is coming. Like, we understand that this is a concern. Awesome. Brilliant stuff. We could do with a little bit more frequent balancing changes. And to go, oh, by the way, guys, we appreciate that Azami, Fenrir, and Solace are all massively degenerate operators who are causing a negative experience for attacking. By the way, we're nerfing Azami. We're making her barricades breakable by bullets. Awesome change. Oh, we're taking every Twitter suggestion for Solace and just doing them because it was Twitter was on the money for once.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, by the way, that's coming in 6 and 9 months' time. Okay, cool. Can we just do it now? Like, I know this isn't how maybe there's some sort of tech reason why this can't be just done now, but can we just do it now? Like, I appreciate you're letting us know that Fenrir is a problem, and in 3 months' time he will be less of a problem. Can we just do it now? Like, I get it. Maybe there's some reason why they want to spread this out, but I also just feel like, you know, we don't have to be so like coy with making these changes. We can just make them. Like, making big patch updates happens in every other live service game. We seem very hesitant to make sweeping changes. I'm fine with a complete overhaul. Maybe they don't want to shake the meta up too much. I'm fine with a complete meta shakeup. I'd rather a complete meta overhaul. Like, we saw that with like Goyo, right? Like, Goyo, Wamai, and Jaeger were all addressed at the same time, and it perfectly solved that issue.
Yeah.
This is the same situation. I don't want another thing where it's like, oh, don't worry about Glaz. We're bringing an operator to deal with Glaz. And then by the time Warden comes out, literally no one cares about Glaz anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't need that. Like, I feel like we should be like, cool, these operators are all OP. They're all too strong. Let's nerf all 3 of them. Maybe attacker gets, like, maybe the attack becomes stronger for a bit of time. That's fine. It's a live service game. You can make a patch. Just, like, let's be open to changing things more crazily. Let's make more consistent changes. I'd be fine with every mid-season having, like, a kind of weird change. I'd be fine with that. I'd also be fine if we hit a good state with not really changing anything. Right, you look at games like StarCraft, where, like, a patch hasn't happened in 8 years, and then suddenly someone figures out a way to flip, like, the Terran, the Protoss-Zerg matchup, and they just flip it completely. And it's like, cool. That's pretty cool. I quite like that. I like the idea that if the game is just very balanced, we leave it in a very balanced state for a group of players, a team, to find something innovative. But when we have 3 real big problems, and you say you're changing all 3 problems, can we just do it at the same time? Just save us the hassle.
Yeah. I think I'm not too bothered about it. They've given us a
Don't get me
change
wrong,
for Zami. They've started with the most offensive operator first, at least. I think the Zami is the most egregious one for me, my experience anyway. Like, I feel like there's just so much to deal with Zami. Like, it's just like like Fenrir. I can cop a Twitch, I can cop a Brava, I can deal with it, right? But if I'm like, if you're solo queuing and there's like an Azami on our team, it's just like
the problem is that all 3 of them like have this same, just like in terms of like a ranked environment, have the same issue of just like there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like it's quite literally just a deal with it. And like there have been operators like that in the past, obviously like Maestro or like the Mirror.
Yeah.
But it's like the way you deal with that is by like playing around the fact that this is a scarce piece of utility. That isn't the case for Solace or Fenrir or Azami. Camera's gone, unfortunate. We'll whack a second one on. Oh, here we go.
I'll come back eventually.
Yeah.
To march the conversation on a little bit while you sort that out. Season 4, still a couple of spicy ones because we stepped back a little bit there. As is custom of the Radio 6 podcast, Golu comes back to interject in some sort of rant style fashion, which is what we're aiming for. So season 4, console to PC option crossplay. I've been an advocate for this a while. I have been a console player for the longest time. I play them both now, to be honest. I play kind of spread time between them. But I've always felt that there's like, if console players want to play on PC, like against PC players, then they should just be able to. Like, I've always thought that like is fine. Like, because the way that they're going to implement it is that if you want to queue, you have to like have a PC player is the person queuing, and they have to invite a console player to the stack, and then they can queue on PC servers. Yeah. I think probably the ranks will still be separate, which again is fine. But I've always like I think we should always be bringing our community together, and I feel like it's a choice that console players can make if they want to swing with the big guys and have a crack at people on M&K, then they should be able to, because it speeds up your game. It changes your game a lot. Like playing console, playing on controller. Like as someone who's played controller on both, like your game has to like completely change when you start playing against like keyboard and mouse, because you just have to be better. So I think it's fine. I think it's decent. Max cancellation as well is nice. Where if a cheater gets detected in the game will be cancelled. That's been needed for a long time, and I'm happy that it's coming as well. They've been kind of quite chill with what they've told us about the kind of like that kind of season as well. There's like they've mentioned dynamic matchmaking. I know that like if you get detected as Zim, then you'll be forced into PC queues, which is very funny.
I love and hate this.
Yeah,
because it's like on one hand it's like that's hilarious. It's so funny. On the flip side, I just don't want a Zim player on my team because they're all terrible at Siege. Mm-hmm. Like, they're all just so egregiously... I've never seen clips from a Zim player and be like, wow, that player's good. It's all just like, I'm going to plug in my mouse and keyboard and be kind of mid and, like, just basically shit on controller players. And they're just going to get... I just have a bad feeling they're just going to get slapped around in controller lobbies. Plus the fact that, like, it's still going to be console, and I don't know how... Like, there's still, like, a leaning lock on it. So it's still going to look weird and feel like, I don't know. It's funny, but if you get one on your team, I just feel bad for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's fine, but listen, we need people to fill out the lower ranks, all right? And True. Zim's like, True. You know what I mean? And it's the ultimate deterrent, isn't it? Because like if you're playing Zim, then you're playing it because like you want the ego part of like, oh, I'm better than you guys. Like, I've stamped on you guys. Like, and if they get put into like a PC lobby and then they get slammed, they're just gonna be like, well, what's the point of me playing keyboard and mouse? I might as well just play controller. I might as well just get a PC. Like presumably this obviously paves the way for keyboard and mouse to be an input on console, I imagine, because like I felt like this has always been the direction, because like there's nothing you can do to like really stop it. You can detect it, like they have
on the developer end.
Yeah, like on the developer end, because like it's just very difficult to get around. So like I've always felt like they'll just kind of allow it and just funnel them into different things. Which again, there will be a lot of people, by the way, that would cop a PlayStation if it meant that they could like play on a closed system, not against cheaters, and use a keyboard mouse. Like I've heard people say that in the past. But yeah, like that's kind of like season 4, kind of in a nutshell, seems to be kind of aimed at like changing playlists, changing matchmaking, and that kind of stuff. Kind of coming in that, obviously different balance and stuff. They obviously haven't told us much for that season, but it is what it is. So year 9 looking pretty decent. First impressions, it's looking like a pretty good year. I'm pretty happy to do it. Pretty happy that some of these changes are coming in. I think before we finish things off, we still just to kind of discuss, I guess, season 1, because we've still got a few things to kind of actually break down. For the actual season, which is obviously Deadly Omen. For season 1, new operator Deimos, which will be the first deviation for the lore. Well, the second. He's a baddie, right? So you get to play him. He's not joining Team Rainbow. You still get to play him. I think that Grim is the other one. I think Grim hasn't joined Team Rainbow officially, so I think technically it's the second time that someone hasn't joined Team Rainbow, but you can play as them.
Isn't Grim on Nighthaven though?
I think so. I think that's what it is. I think it's like the
Grim's Nighthaven.
I'm not the resident lore.
It's they've because the whole thing with like the Nighthaven Rainbow split, right, where Nighthaven poaches some of their members, but then also just has other team members.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if Osa was at. I don't think Osa. No, Osa was part of Rainbow, but then defected to Nighthaven.
Yeah.
Grim might have just straight up joined Nighthaven.
Yeah, I think that's what happened, but
but they're all part of that like group, right? Yeah, I mean, again, like, people were going a bit wild with this, being like, "Oh my god, they've Overwatched the game," and it's like, I don't think anyone, like, does anyone ever just sit in an Overwatch game and be like, "Oh no, Widowmaker isn't part of Overwatch. I can't play Widowmaker on the same team as Lucio." Like, no one cares.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, no one was in their like ranked game and was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we have Carly and Ash on the same team. They wouldn't be working together in real life." It's like, no one cares. Touch grass. Like,
I think
just, do you know what I mean? Fine. Like, Deimos being in the game is absolutely fine.
It's fine.
It's cool. It's cool. He's a cool looking character.
Very cool.
He has a very cool gadget. He'll be very fun to play. I'm sure you'll get trolled by a couple bad Deimos on your team. It's the new edgy operator, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll start with his loadout. It's the easiest place to start with. So picks up the AK-74M. Nomad's AR again, fine, great gun. Glad it's getting kind of shifted onto someone else to kind of try on someone else. It's a good gun. Large magazine. I'm happy with that. It's got the M590A1, which is the SAS shotgun. So he has that available to him. Again, shotguns are on the rise actually on attack, so you can kind of justify bringing it if you want to. Especially given that his secondary is the 44 Magnum Vendetta. His own signature, exactly, perfectly encapsulated that. I think his own pistol, it looks sick. It's got a scope on it. It's crazy. It can open up holes from miles away. It can make rotates, which is nuts. From a Magnum, it's crazy. I think it will get nerfed. It looks just way too strong. Like, I feel like there's no reason not to just run that with a shotgun, like, for a laugh.
No, there's not. There's not.
Like, you just use that. You just use it as a DMR. Like,
it's a 6-bullet DMR that is also a pistol.
Yeah.
The scope is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They've literally taken it. It is the scope from Nomad and Kaid's pistol. It is that scope, but not zoomed. Which is like, give me the I can't remember what it's called, but like, I think it's also a .44. Give me Kaid's gun without the magnification, still with that scope, every day of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean, I haven't played TS. I've installed it, haven't played it.
No, I haven't played it. I prefer to wait till the new season launches, to be honest.
But just watching people play with this weapon is ridiculous. And I'm not even talking like, I watched Spoit play with the weapon and he killed everyone. It's like, yeah, of course, because it's Spoit. No, like, just your average Joe just runs around with this gun and just smokes people. It is a 6-bullet DMR.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Yeah, I think it does probably get tweaked. I was very, very surprised, like astonished, when it was like shown as like an actual weapon you could just use. I thought it was maybe going to be like part of his ability.
Only pulled out during his ability.
But then again, like, that would kind of change it, because calves you could technically have equipped separately. So, but anyway, I think it will get tweaked. But
I think it'd be different, right? Like, I could see him having it. Like, he could have like, I don't know, like, just literally like the normal Magnum. And then when you use the ability, he whips out the 44. Like, I could see something like that. And I think that would make sense. And again, like, we're not having the realism conversation. Like, I'm just not doing it.
Or you could just have him, like, attach.
I don't need the toll on my mental health having to have, like, the 17th argument about, oh, but if he has 2 pistols, why would he ever not pull out the 44? Because it's a video game and it's balancing reasons. Like, come on, like, let's use a little bit of critical thinking here. Like, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I think it'd be fine. But to be fair, like, I mean, if you want to get around the realism aspect of it, you could just have that he equips the scope as the ability. Like, when he changes the ability, he pulls out the mag.
I still think it'd be nuts with iron sights.
It probably would be. But anyway, yeah, it will probably just be tweaked, which is fine. I think the recoil will probably just be upped on it a little bit or whatever. That's fine. Gadget-wise, frags, hard breach, and smokes, so a nice spread. I feel like they're kind of aiming to move towards changing things around with these secondary gadgets anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if people can take what they want at some point. 2-speed. Again, I've always I still don't know how I feel about the armor system. Like I still want to see it maybe revisited. And technically, it is getting revisited this season because there's like new attachments and stuff that change it a bit with the speeds and stuff. But anyway, 2 health, 2 speed, it's fine. His ability though is the Death Mark Tracker, which simply put is basically along the lines of Jackal. You get their exact location, but you also give your exact location, and you basically just enter a 1v1 mode. Basically,
it's like they get live pinged, you get pinged like a Jackal scan. Is the difference though? Right?
Is it?
I don't think you get live pinged. This is my understanding of it. It feels like you get pinged on a timer rather than live.
I think it's not just a Jackal. I'm just looking at the just now. It looks like it's just a Jackal, basically like a Jackal when it shows you their ping, and it pulses like every now and again, kind of like Jackals does, like to show you their thing.
Yeah.
But like the trade-off, the balancing aspect is that no one else has the information. So Jackal, everybody can see it. Whereas like Deimos is one, only Deimos can see that information. No one else can see their exact location. Yeah. Also, it gives away his location as well, so that's the kind of balancing aspect. I think his ability is actually pretty balanced. I'd actually argue that it's actually a little bit weak unless you have other people with you that can capitalize off of it. Like you're not gonna play this operator. Like I don't know. I feel like you just wouldn't play him unless you felt like you were like insane with a gun. Like the gun kind of changes it, right? If it's like a normal gun, right? See if he just has the ability.
He's gonna be
good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he will. You know.
I think he'll be good.
I don't think he will. I think it's going to be fine. I think like if the gun is the thing that sways it, right? His gun is insane, right? That's the issue, right? For me, the gun is crazy. Like the Magnum, like you have that with intel. 95% of the time, you're going to win the gunfight. I think if it was just like a regular kind of gun that wasn't so strong, I think it'd be a different conversation. I think his ability's fine. I think it's fine. I think that's like genuinely. I think he's going to enter in. People will pick him when they need him. People will pick him. Like, I think he'll be fine. Like genuinely, that's it.
I think he'll be fine. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying like, he's going to be so OP.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be OP. And
I think he's going to be very good. It's just
like. I think ability-wise, is the issues is the Magnum for me. The Magnum's that strong that it's like, it's gonna be a great.
You get that scan and you enter that 1v1 with someone and you can just take him down. Like the clips of just hunting people down is ridiculous. In a stack, it's absurd because you effectively have live info without having anyone on drone.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just go like, cool, they're here. Oh, they're moving this way, and you just kill them. Like, yeah. I think roaming becomes so difficult against Deimos.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Like, I think like it depends. Like solo queue, it's difficult to justify in a stack when you've got other people that you can feed the intel to and do that stuff. It's fine. Again, but strength of the Magnum
you see someone lock that cav in. Like you see someone genuinely, you see someone lock that cav in. You're playing like solo queue, and you just go, cool. I'll grab Deimos real quick. You scan that cav down and just hunt them down. Yeah. It's like, yeah, you kind of enter that 1v1, but like, I think that's fine. Like, yeah. I don't know. I think it's more reliable than like the Jackal's great, obviously. I think Jackal still sees more bans in like low elo than Deimos.
Yeah.
But I think Deimos is going to be better.
I think so
in
as well,
like
yeah.
good hands.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. I think I think it'll be decent though. Like, well. We will see. I think that the thing that's like skewing my perception of it is how strong that pistol is.
That pistol's very
I think
strong.
that's going to make it very difficult to see where it actually fits. But we'll figure it out. Other things, we are not going to talk about this too much because we've spoke about it in a few other podcasts. Because
the shield change is great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. It fixes the issues with shields in terms of making them unfun to play against and frustrating to play.
Mm-hmm.
It removes frustration on both sides. I think that's just a very healthy change. I think this has been expertly done by Ubisoft. They delayed it to make sure it was rolled out right. I hope it rolls out well. Nothing to say.
Nothing, exactly. We've spoke about it. If you wanna see what the shield work is, of course, a couple of changes to the way the shields work. Feel free to go back through some of the other ones. We've discussed it quite a few times on the podcast. there's one, I can't remember what episode it is, but there's like a full TS that they've launched, and we talked about the shield rework in depth of what it actually was in it. What I wanted to get into though is the attachment in ADS upgrade. This is a change that I was extremely surprised about, and I was really surprised that it was coming in season 1 as well. Because we're getting some new attachments, which is kind of wild. We're getting, I believe, a horizontal grip is new. They're changing, but I think that's the only new one now, but basically they're trying to add more attachments that give you different things, and each attachment now is going to be giving you different stuff, different kind of buffs, if you want to call it that. Like horizontal grip is going to be the new grip. It increases the speed that you move at. Vertical grip, it's been updated. It reduces the recoil by 20%, I think, to plus 20%, down from 25. Angle grip has been changed to have a bonus of plus 20% in reload speed, so it speeds up things. Underbarrel laser has been changed to have a bonus of plus 10% aim down sight speed, which is both good and also bad, especially as a shotgun player. It's like, I like the tighter spread, but it is what it is. And then the big one that I was genuinely shocked when they announced it was like, whoa, okay, right, was the changes to like the magnifications, and how basically they're removing 1.5, like it's just gone. Like, it's now the casing for it, like the actual sight itself still exists, but it's going to be in the new magnification system. It's going to be a 2.5. And then you've got 2 times it's like telescopic, and yeah, it's as you just changed the camera again. Yeah, so like they've basically removed 1.5, they've upped the magnification on it, and they've given it to a few defenders. They've given it like the 2.5 and stuff. So we're going to see a lot more ACOGs now, is what we're going to see.
Yeah, I like the change. Getting rid of the 1.5 is so good. It will hopefully start leading to more real balancing changes where we're not going to get as many like Thorn gets the 1.5.
Yeah.
Also, here's an elite skin. But I don't know. I just like this. I think my one current gripe is Echo has no 2.5. Come on, like, don't know who I have to bribe here, but like, I can't really bribe you that much at the moment. But like, I'll give you like a $5. Let's just get that 2.5 back on Echo, please. Yeah. I mean, he was like an OG. He had the OG. Why are we just like, why are we randomly slating the 2.5? Like, it's crazy behavior.
One thing, one thing I kind of glossed over there was that the actual aim down sight speed is changing. Again, I was slowing, very surprised at that as well. So the time to transition from hip fire to aiming down speed has been increased. So, but across everything, so it's just going to be slower when you're sprinting and stuff. They're just slowing the game down. No, I don't think. I'm surprised they did it. I'm surprised they went through with it. I'm not surprised in that I felt that the game was maybe heading in that direction. Needed something to slow it down a little bit. I'm just surprised they did it. In that aspect, and to go so hard, like, oh yeah, we're just going 1.5 taking it away, and we're slowing down your ADS speed. That's what you get. That's what you get for swinging everything. I'm actually fine with it. Whatever.
Yeah, I will need to see how it plays out. I am nervous that we're gonna keep clunking up the game. I think it was in a fine spot at the moment. I do appreciate that it feels like we're starting to get some real variation on what all of these sights mean, or like grips mean. Because I think Siege has always had a bit of an issue when it comes to how attachments actually, like, whether they actually matter. For the last year and a half, you just run vert grip on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, you just ran vert grip on everything, so just reduced your recoil. Angled grip didn't really mean that much. With everything getting slowed down, and now angled getting buffed as well, or like, I guess, reworked to care about the reload speed, that's pretty interesting. Especially now that we have the change where obviously you can't reload cancel. So that's now a meaningful impact.
Mm-hmm.
The underbarrel now being your aim down sight speed is interesting. I am torn because thematically this doesn't feel like it makes much sense to me.
It is like that in a lot of games, though, that laser sights speed up the things. I don't know why, but that just seems to be the consensus. In other FPSs.
I mean, in COD, doesn't it just reduce your spread?
No, it depends on the COD. Like they've got that much laser sight. There's so many different laser sights. Some that speed it up, some that slow it down. It's wild.
Fair enough then.
They all do different sorts of stuff.
So like it's one of those that just thematically it feels a bit weird to me, I guess. But that's because I'm used to how they function before. But I don't mind.
Might get nerfed as well.
I don't mind. I think there's also the different sights thing where 1Xs have a 5% ADS speed buff, and then the iron sights have a 10% buff,
which is wild.
So, and they stack on, so it becomes like if you have laser sight and iron sight, it becomes a 20% ADS buff. ADS buff.
Bandit
like
MP7 gonna go again. Hard.
Yes, Bandit MP7 is gonna go.
He's gonna be a quick boy.
Especially when you chuck that horizontal grip on, because that gun does not have much recoil.
Exactly.
Although
speedy
I don't know if you're going to be able to, because historically that gun has never been able to equip grips, because it comes with a grip, right? Like it's like an inbuilt vert grip. So I don't know if you'll be able to horizontal grip it, but if you can, that'll be real nice.
That will be kind of wild.
And Bandit's back to being our go-to roamer, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think it'd be interesting to see. I think it adds real sort of personalization to what grips you want to run, what sights you want to run. Forcing a split between 2.5 and 1 times is brilliant because again, it's forcing players to make meaningful decisions before you spawn, which is only a good thing, right? Players having to make more decisions and think more about what they're doing is a good thing for the game.
Yeah.
I will be jamming those 2.5s because 2.5s are very, very nice.
Yeah, I'm a hollow enjoyer.
Yeah.
But apparently they're changing that as well, so that's what.
Oh yeah, the casing of the hollow A is changed, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they're meant or whatever. We'll see. I'm looking. It's not in the patch notes, so. We'll see
what ends up with that.
We'll see what happens with that. A couple other things as well. So rank restrictions. They're adding like a few different things, like returning players and new players. You also have to have like, instead of just having a clearance level of 50, you have to have like at least 10 attack and 10 defense operators. Like there's just more for like barriers to entry to ranked, which is fine. And again, that's really just to fight against smurfs and cheaters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people will have those things anyway. I suppose like the biggest kind of new feature, if you want to call it that, this season coming is the locker. That's their system, they're calling it, which is like your inventory management. So like your aesthetics, like all your different skins, background cards, all this kind of stuff. I'm all for that. We've needed it for so long. We just need it. We just need it. I hope on top of that I get the option to delete stuff because I don't want to have so many backing cards. I'm sick of having all of them.
That's what the marketplace is for.
Yeah, but I can't sell those. I can't sell my gold.
You can melt them for renown or something.
Like just let me clear some stuff out. I don't want to have to just keep it if it's in my inventory. But yeah, I'm all for this. I think that there's nothing more to add than this is a good change. To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just like it's nice to have. It's nice to be able to sort out. The one thing, and they have said they're going to expand on the locker system throughout seasons, which again, I think there's been a lot of things missing in Siege that feel like they should be kind of standard for live service games, like accessing practice, having a practice range, accessing practice range during queues.
Yeah.
Things like better management of cosmetics, and we're starting to see that now all catching up, which is great. And they've been very clear that they want to keep expanding on each of those things as we go forwards, which again is great. I would hope we get presets. I would like to be able to set presets, especially if you play like any comp Siege, where you have certain skins you can and can't use, to be able to be like, here's like locker loadout number 1, and you can have all the operators on their defaults or with esports skins, and then you can just click to go to like loadout 2, which has all your like custom, like all your event skins and like your Ember Rises and like here's my like Rainbow is Magic Smoke, and you don't have to like go through every operator individually. I think that'd be quite nice. You can equip your elites and stuff like this. That's what I hope we get. Just down the line, or presets with the ability to like swap presets in game. Right. So it's like I can load into like my custom game and I have all my like fancy like funky skins on. But if I need to play it, if I'm playing on a comp game where I can't have skins, I can just hit preset 1 on the operator in game and it will change it. I think that might be a bit like much because I don't know how that would work with rendering skins, but some way to set presets would be really nice, just to allow for a little bit more customization and stuff. But ultimately, I think the locker's great. I think it's going to really help people. Just manage inventories, which is what it's for, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think again a lot of quality of life stuff happening this year, and that's one that's been needed for a while. A couple of balancing things as well. Asami Barricade, we touched on it just briefly. Asami is just getting nerfed, really. Kiba Barricade, which is, I'm surprised this is the direction they went with it, but I'm kind of happy that I think that this is probably the best way to do it. Kiba Barrier has health, it's vulnerable to bullets. You can fire in loads of bullets at it, you can then destroy it. I think that given that she gets so many of them, given that she can replenish them, I think that's a good trade-off. You have to dedicate a lot of you still have to dedicate a lot of time and still expose yourself to actually deal with it. So I think that'll be fine, and that will hopefully bring Inzami back in line with being a bit less oppressive. And you're not forced to bring you can still deal with her if don't have the stuff that you're in, but you're gonna there's a reason to still bring someone else to kind of help with it and make it a bit easier. I think there's much more to add to the Zami. I think we've touched on it enough for the balance and for the operators earlier. LNG as well. Weapon class update. This is one that surprised me again. Wasn't quite expecting it to be there. Or even mentioned. The LMGs, are kind of, we had the meta for a year, and then they just were nerfed in Oblivion and never touched again. Now this time they're going to be receiving an overall reduction to the recoil. They're also going to be getting a 10% movement penalty. So I think they're trying to get some trade-offs, get some suppressive fire type style coming from them. Whether that'll happen, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
It'll be interesting. I think the one thing I will say is with the movement changes, you're not going to be able to just run around with LMGs in theory anymore. I like the changes they're making. I think adding a more distinct role for LMGs is a great change rather than having them basically not really exist because the recoil at the moment has been too much. But again, this is another example of you nuke something, you come back to it later. Nuking and coming back later is an incredibly successful balancing strategy in live service games. Fenrir and Solace need to be nuked. So let's just do it all at the same time. Nuke it.
Yeah.
What's been watching Legend of Korra recently, right? And there's an airbender who it's like some guru from the past. It's like a history quote in the show, and it's like you got to sometimes to build the world up, you have to destroy it all first. That's the defender meta right now. Burn them.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'd be happy if they did let one go. They're obviously not, but to be fair, there's not too big a gap between them. We will get there soon.
I'd also just nerf Jaeger for a laugh. I think that would just be funny.
Just nerf him again, just for a
laugh. Just be like, oh yeah, Jaeger's going from 3 to 2 ADSs. Just to watch people's brains melt. I think that'd be quite funny. Had a lovely conversation with someone in a ranked game last night about how Jaeger is a fuse counter. That was an interesting discussion that I was forced to partake in.
Yeah, I was a fuse, by the way. I was fusing. Oh yeah. Yeah. This conversation was happening in all chat, by the way.
This is someone on the other team just upset.
So if you think Golu can rant and rave on the podcast, which is the platform he's allowed to do that, you can do it in all chat.
By the way, this guy was adamant that Jaeger is supposed to hard counter fuse. I was mind blown.
Yeah, it was
oh yeah, on the old Jaeger when I had 2 gadgets that I could capture, I could completely shut down 1 cluster charge if I deployed all 3 of my ADSs. I'm just like, That's just like such a win. If I'm playing Fuse and I use 1 cluster charge to get rid of 3 ADSs, I feel like a god, by the way.
Exactly.
Like, it's so Jova for your entire... anyway.
Yeah, we're going to stop before you continue.
Yeah, ranked does things.
Yeah, that's what ranked at 3M does to people. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Repel improvements. We needed this for a little while. Repel is a bit of a funky animation. They've changed the animation. They're making it a bit more natural, a bit nicer to look at. Again, quality of life. Happy for it. That's a good thing. Trajectory pre-visualization. We've spoke about this. We're not going to speak about it anymore. It's coming this season. You can see where you throw stuff. That's it. You can turn it on and off, which is nice. Some more of this kind of training and onboarding stuff as well. Versus AI is getting some improvements. Map training as well is going to improve. I think, to be honest, for me, none of this makes a difference. I've played the Versus AI once. I won't ever play it. I personally, it's not what I'll play. I just won't play it. It's for learning the game. I think it's, if you want to play against the AI, you can play against the AI. It's just not. I don't know. I prefer to beef other people in off chat, to be honest. Like, that's my preference for playing Siege. So yeah, like, I think that's fine. It's good for the kind of onboarding, helping new players, that kind of stuff. By the way, the seasonal weapon skin, banger this season. It's pretty tasty compared to what we've had in previous seasons. I think it's quite nice. Just while I was scrolling past it, thought I'd just throw that in there. And we mentioned just previously, like a few minutes ago, about the updates to the reticles and stuff. That is in the patch notes. Didn't realise that it is indeed in the patch notes, where they're like, they've decreased, like they've increased some of the middle dots and like the red dots and like the hollows. They've just changed some of them, tweaked them a little bit. I don't really know why they've did that. Again, it just feels like they're trying to. It actually feels kind of like they've just went all in this one season, been like, right, we're gonna, no more gunfights. Get settled down, everybody. Just settle down, right?
Yeah. Can I keep going?
Yeah, it just feels like they're just trying to rein everybody in a little bit. Also, to be fair, I think this is probably a bit more justified purely because, like, there's no reason not to run Hollow unless, like, I can't remember which Hollow it is. I can never remember the actual name of them. I've ran the same Hollow since year.
Hollow A is the classic one.
All the way, yeah, right. So, like,
Hollow B is the Spetsnaz, and Hollow C is the Cybertruck.
To me, like, there's no reason not to just run Hollow A. I very rarely see anyone running anything else other than, like, 1 point. Like, if we're just talking about 1 times, by the way. Some people will run different things here and there. 95% of the people that kill me or I kill are running Hollow A. So, I guess, cool. They want to make people make different meaningful decisions. That's fine, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it was always the nice middle ground, right? Where the casing's not too obtrusive, and you get a really nice dot with it. I kind of like the Cybertruck color. I can't lie.
Yeah.
I think it's quite nice. I think people just get upset by it. I don't know why. Like, I think it looks really nice. Just the little lines annoy people. The dot's really nicely sized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a pretty nice scope. The casing's not terrible. It's pretty small. Yeah. It's like maybe awkwardly shaped, but it's not that bad.
Well, to be fair, I think this is what this is, though. It's just to invoke people to have to use different things instead of just using the one thing all the time.
I would like to. Yeah, sorry, go.
No, that's fine. I was just gonna say, that's fine. I think.
Very quickly, like to address one thing with the shields, which is beautiful. Obviously, there's the whole like thing where if you get shot enough times, you can't sprint.
Yeah.
Finker cleans that completely off. So if you're playing with a blitz and you grab that Finker, don't surge them immediately. Let them run in, and then when they get shot, you then surge, and then they keep sprinting. And that's going to piss people off because they're going to be like, I shot you, I turned off sprinting. And they won't know that because it's hidden in the patch notes and it's going to be very funny. And then they'll die and then you get to laugh at them. And that's going to be great. And support your shield players. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So just reading ahead, I've noticed a little thing. Right, so first of all, I'll just encompass the last few things that are changing, right? So, health-wise, they're adding some things to quick match, a few more maps. They're finishing off the maps for quick match. A couple more arcade playlists, that kind of stuff. Nice little ranked exclusive reward, which is quite nice. You get an exclusive headgear for Thermite. If you reach gold 1 in ranked. I think that's something that's decent. Just encouraging people to play ranked, in something other than just the like the status, I guess, of ranked. I think that's fine. However, what I've noticed just right at the bottom in the patch notes, the very last thing, and they didn't say anything about this in the announcement, and I have been begging for this for ages, and I'm going to give you like an exact example of it. So I'll read it out first of all. So flashbang customization. Feature allows to select the type of visual and audio effect applied whenever the player is blinded by a flashbang or other blinding device. If I just click my Wikipedia, you will see my face light up like a Christmas tree, and it's bright white. For so long, I have wanted to just change it to like black or whatever. Like flashbangs making like it's an accessibility thing. This right? Like some people like, I don't like it.
Is, yeah.
Just like that's the reason that like people want it mostly.
Yeah, I think accessibility changes are great.
Is the accessibility reason? Of course, like we got the change to the reticle colors. We've got you can take like screen shake off. All of these are like competitively, yes, they can make a difference for you, but they're built with accessibility in mind. This I don't doubt that this is built with the same thing in mind. I prefer to be looking at a dark screen. Like than looking at being literally flashbanged. Like I get that like, realism, but at the same time, come on, like it's fine.
No one cares.
Like I don't care.
I would also like to see that expanded to observer perspective, where observers can just choose not to get flashbanged, but have some sort of on-screen visual, because there is nothing more frustrating than watching a Siege game and the person who's being observed gets flashbanged, and then you get flashbanged, and it's just like, can I just like please see what's going on?
It's mixed. I'm mixed on that because, like, at the same time, like, what if someone gets a kill while flashbanged? You miss that. For the funsies of that, you know, the hype of that.
But
moment.
Like, you get you CCS, and it's like the flashbang comes in, you see the burst of light, and you get like a little blinded thing. In Valorant, it's like a blinded thing with a little timer that goes around the outside of it, right?
Yeah,
that's the Valorant one. And it's like, that's a great indicator because they have like the fuzz around the screen.
Yeah, that's
on the edge of the So it's like, so just literally just steal that, where it's like you still get like the white line around the edge of the screen to be like they're flashbanged. You get a little timer that's just like they are flashbanged, and it fades out or whatever. Like it won't be maybe it's not a timer because it's not like set the same way in Siege, but just like some sort of effect that says they are currently flashbanged and then have it fade away, because like, as much as it would be like, it's great, like it's kind of funny when someone gets flashbanged and then you see the kill feed pop up, and then they get unflashed and you just see like the operator icon just on the floor in front of them. Sure, that's kind of amusing. At the same time, I'd also quite like to like see that shot, right?
Yeah.
I'd also quite like to not have my eyes just like blown out by the screen. Like if I'm like lying in bed watching my like NAL while trying to drift off, and I suddenly just get like white screened, like
yeah, that's true. That's for me. Like I don't know. Like I've been having troubles with my eyes recently, so like being able to change that is really really nice.
It's a nice change. Again, more accessibility changes are good. Remember, I'm in favor of expanding the yellow ping system. So like we're not opposed to making like any change for accessibility is a good change for the game. That's my stance.
Yeah, like, and people like always like some people complain like that it like compromises like realism. Again, like yeah, we know flashbangs aren't black. Yeah, we know that, right? But it doesn't matter. Like that's not the point. Like eye health, people who like photosensitive epilepsy, like who are just like excluded from the game just by default because of that. Like you always have to pop up at the start of the game that says, "Oh, it has flashing stuff in the game." Like you can't do this. Like so suddenly they can play the game. Suddenly they can do that because they're switched off, like or they're changed. You can also change the audio effect. It says as well, which is nice because that ringing again not fun. So if I can change that, I'm happy to do that. Yeah. Quite surprised. I just kind of like that little tidbit just at the end. It's like literally the last thing that's mentioned in the patch notes. and they said nothing about it on the actual announcement. So it's quite a nice little thing as well. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good season. I'm excited for some Deadly Omen. We're getting quite a bit of changes to like. Doesn't just feel like, oh, we're getting a new up, we're getting a new map. Moving on. I would have liked to maybe see something happening with maps this year. A couple of maps I think need a couple of tweaks. Emerald Plains being one of them. I think there's a couple of things that need tidied up here and there for that.
Border.
They don't like to. They don't like to like give us too many new maps, which again is fine. They want to like give them loads of time because maps in Siege are different from maps in other games where they're not just reskinned. It's not just like a 3-lane reskinning and Bob's your uncle, fire away.
Whoa, no need to throw so much shade at Call of Duty releasing the same 7 maps with different color schemes every season.
Hey
so guys, do you want Nuketown for the 12th game in a row? Yeah, brilliant! Cheers, guys.
Yeah, so it's not like that. There's a bit more that goes into them.
Hey, we're bringing out a new game. Look at all the maps that you've already played before that you can play again. Buy our game, please. Oh, brilliant.
Nostalgia. You're in a proper shade mood tonight. I love it.
Yeah.
This is why we've been here for so long, which means that we're going to wrap this up because we've been here for quite a while. We've discussed quite a few different things. Just to kind of recap, I guess, we've been over the 6th Invitational 2024. We will be talking about this game for years and years and years and years. Best final there's been. W7M, the Dynasty that are yet to be toppled. We'll see, of course, what that has in the future.
Yeah. Dynasty, by the way. Like, I know you're trying to wrap up. We're going to quickly just... If this is a Dynasty, I'm not like... If you don't, like... The amount of like time that's gone into like setting this up for the Dynasty, they are a Dynasty. Winning SI didn't make them the Dynasty. Let's also get this out the way. It's the same with like the Ronaldo-Messi conversation. Like Messi winning the World Cup didn't make him better than Ronaldo. He just was better than Ronaldo. Like just use your eyes. Like I don't care. Ronaldo fans are on some next level copium, and the W7M like hate train is on exactly the same medication. Like let's just. Like they would have been a Dynasty no matter what happened. They could have lost to G2. They still would have been a Dynasty team. Like they still would have been insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this team's insane.
Team absolutely is insane. We'll see what they have in the future. We'll see what they've got up their sleeve. Of course, next week we'll have a roster conversation. About where everybody is. I wanted to do it this week, but everyone wants to wait till the very last minute before they want to wait till we're physically in the league before they tell us the rosters.
This is also like the second time in Siege now where an organization has had like an ungodly amount of success and then just like not been able to hold the roster together. Like Empire, insane roster, just like decides to drop the entire team and then make like just like eventually they just left Siege, right? But like they drop the entire team, bounce, and then like great, you don't exist anymore. W7M not able to hold on to them. I mean, this might be out of their control a little bit, but like it's still a shame for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, the team will stay together. They'll more than likely they're not leaving Siege, so they are just
exactly. They still have a spot. They're just gonna get another team.
No, just have another team. So yeah. Of course, season year 9 kicks off next week. Depending on when you're watching this, but this is the 6th of March just now. It kicks off on the 11th.
For another 50 minutes.
Yeah. For another 50 minutes. Yeah, exactly. We've almost bled through it the next day as well. We've been here that long. This is the longest episode yet, so thanks for staying with us. For whatever portions that you enjoyed. Thanks for the support as well. Throughout the episodes, we'll have more next week. It'll be roster mania and kind of first impressions of the season, I guess. That kind of stuff. All that goodness. And also, we'll talk about Malta, because we've got Malta as well this weekend. Malta Cyber Series in Malta. I'll be going. Wish you were going, Golo, but you're not. It's going to be a good laugh. And we get to see some of these rosters that have just been put together, like the new BDS, ENCE as well, have came back to Siege. Like, it's going to be a fun weekend. But anyway, we're going to wrap that up. We will catch up with you next. It's the Radio 6 podcast. You can see our socials down below. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you listen in, share, and tell your friends and family about us. We like to waffle. We've had a good time. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, Lola?
No, I'm good.
Nice. Thank you very much for dropping by. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.